Chapter 1683. Jiangzi was confused from the fever. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said such words. He wouldn't have let go of Shui Yaoyao's hand. But he really didn't think it was Shui Yaoyao. So after he said that, he closed his eyes, his pale, handsome face unnaturally red. One look, and she knew it was caused by his high body temperature. It was probably because he was too uncomfortable. His brows were furrowed, and his breath was hot. Shui Yaoyao sat at the side, her heart suddenly throbbing. From the moment she entered, she realized what kind of environment it was. If it was him in the past, he definitely wouldn't live in such a house. It was very simple, and there were even cobwebs outside, because it was the old campus. The room was clean, but it was a world of difference from the place he had lived in for a long time. It wasn't that Shui Yaoyao didn't think about who he was here for, but it was too late. Shui Yaoyao wanted to tell him that, but the words Fat Yaoyao made her pause. She didn't know why, but her heart felt warm. People didn't understand. So many people started to like her. It was because she had become like this. She learned to be confident, to dress herself up, and she was even 10 kilograms lighter than before. When she encountered problems, she could solve them and wasn't a yes man anymore. She made herself better and better. If she worked hard enough, she would probably be respected accordingly. But other than Highness Geo, only this person, whether it was hate or like, it was all given to her in the past. She felt so inferior that she couldn't show her face. She couldn't handle anything. She was fat and ugly and even a little useless. He would smile and say, "You're not useless. I feel at ease, but you are really heavy, Fat Yaoyao." She liked this person. He was probably the one who gave her the initial courage. That was why she felt like she was collapsing when she was injured. But who said that he had to like her at that time? Shui Yaoyao's eyes landed on him. This person had given her too many feelings. It was so complicated that it reminded her of her youth. He had seen her at her worst. He had also shattered her teenage dreams. But after experiencing so much, Shui Yaoyao understood one thing. A teenage dream would always be a dream. And whether it was the unbearable you or the beautiful you, not everyone could accept it. So many people said they liked her. Shui Yaoyao saw the cruelest thing in the word like. Even when people found out about Almighty Qin's hand injury, those who said they liked him even wanted him to withdraw from the competition when he performed poorly. Liking someone was too easy. A single gaze, a single face, a single sentence could be imagined. When the illusion is shattered, there would be hostages who would suspect that Senior Lin was trying to cheat them into marriage. Just because he said that he was gay, some things couldn't be explained. The easiest thing to accept about liking someone was that it was the opposite of fantasy. No matter what, she couldn't deny it. Apart from a supreme alliance, he was the only one who didn't ask her how she wanted to develop. At that time, he even said, "It's quite comfortable to pinch the flesh on your face." Fat Yaoyao. Shui Yaoyao placed her hand on Jiangzi's forehead, her eyes reflecting the tree branches outside. Jiangzi didn't know what had happened. His fever had reached 40 degrees Celsius, and he was feeling a little dizzy. If it wasn't for someone constantly cooling him down, he would have died. He was really going to fail this time. Chapter 1684. Jiangzi sat up, the white towel on his forehead hanging to one side. This caused his gaze to change. Amidst the deep and shallow emotions, someone brought a bowl of noodle soup over. "Damn, you're finally awake. Hurry up and eat the noodles. I bought it from the restaurant." This time, it wasn't made with gutter oil. The person who spoke was his roommate, who was also a teaching assistant like him. It was also this voice that made Jiangzi feel like he should wake up. He probably had a really bad fever. He actually felt like Yaoyao had come to visit him. He was probably dreaming. Jiangzi didn't move. He continued to lie there, raising his hand to cover his forehead. "I'm not hungry." "You said you weren't hungry again." The person shook his head. "Young Master Jiang, you have to eat something. You don't have much of an appetite after the fever. Look at you. I told you to eat, but you didn't. In the end, it got worse if it wasn't for your sister." "My sister? What do you mean, my sister?" Jiangzi interrupted him before he could finish his sentence. The person was confused. "Your sister, Junior Yaoyao." Jiangzi suddenly sat up, his voice a little hoarse. "Yaoyao, did she come?" MMH. The person nodded, blowing on the noodles as he ate. She just left and left you medicine. She said you were awake and asked me to call you for dinner, after dinner. F***CK. Wait, young Master Jiang, where are you going? Jiang's didn't turn back, grabbing a jacket and heading out. The person was dumbfounded. Does this young master know that his fever has just subsided? At this moment, Jiang's didn't care anymore. Since she came, did that mean that he still had a chance? That was the only thing Jiang's cared about. Downstairs in the female dormitory, there were many people with different personalities. That was because there was someone standing under the tree. He had a smile on his face, as though he had just finished playing basketball. He didn't take off his wristband, but held a bouquet of flowers in his hand. He was talking to Shui Yao Yao. It wasn't anyone else. It was the school hunk they wanted to see. Since you have no time, I could only come. The man smiled. I wanted to tell you slowly, but it seems like if I don't tell you now, I'm afraid I won't have the chance in the future. You should have felt it. Shui Yao Yao stood there, not saying a word. You said you have a boyfriend. I've been following the team for so long, but I've never heard any news of you having a boyfriend. After the assistant came, I was even more certain that you don't have a boyfriend. What I'm about to say next, I hope it won't cause you any psychological burden. If you feel like you can't get along with me after hearing it, then just pretend you never heard it. Yao Yao, I like you. When he said the last word, Yi Zichen was stunned. Almost everyone who was walking back and forth heard it. Not to mention that this was a female dormitory. How fast did the news spread? Some even covered their mouths. There were even people whistling. The school hunk confessed. This would have been impossible in the past. It was even more impossible for him to be waiting for someone downstairs. But now, this scene was really like a scene that only appeared in television dramas. The girl he confessed to was truly blessed. Someone cupped his face and started to jeer, yes, yes, yes. Everything was so lively and beautiful. Chapter 1685. Was there no hope left? He bit his lower lip. His legs felt like they were filled with lead. They were heavy and heavy. On the two of them, he saw youth and the future. But thinking about it carefully, what was between them? The hurt, the past, and the absurdity that he didn't even want to think about. Jiang's couldn't figure out where his problem was. He really wanted to ask her. Was it his fault that he didn't know how to like someone? Now it was proven. It was his fault that he didn't know how to like someone, because he had never cherished or trusted anyone. However, there was only one person whom he was completely good to. Jiang's lowered his eyes. He was a businessman. They were around the same age. But his way of thinking was different. Compared to their beauty, he seemed to only be left with benefits. No matter what he did, he had to consider the gains and losses first. How did he grow up? Ever since his mother died, he guarded the Jiang family. Those women who wanted to marry his father. If he wasn't a person who considered the gains and losses, how could he deal with them? He wouldn't allow anyone to touch the Jiang family's things. It wasn't because he liked being the young master of the Jiang family. It was because these things originally belonged to his mother. So, in the future, he would be alone again. Jiang's lowered his head and laughed. This time, he didn't do things his way, except that he didn't want to force her. And there was another point. Maybe a long time ago, he was already alone. It was him who always lived in the past. He remembered when he was 10 years old. On Christmas, Chinamo stood at their doorstep. The person who usually didn't touch anything would decorate the Christmas tree like a little artist. This was a foreign holiday, and it had nothing to do with them. Besides, the Qin family valued the Chinese season more. It was just a small habit. Ever since he knew Chinamo, he would come once a year. At that time, he asked him, "Why do you always do these things?" Chinamo said, "Someone likes it." He didn't need to look to know. Someone, but that person isn't here. Chinamo looked up, his gaze unchanged. She isn't here now. As long as I wait here, she will come back one day. At that time, rather than saying that he admired Chinamo, it was more like he was envious that he had such a person who could wait. Standing in the same spot, that person could see him the moment he turned his head. Many people said that it was not easy to stand still, because no one could keep themselves unchanged. Yes, Chinamo hadn't changed after so many years. Even after what happened to him, some things didn't change. But does anyone know? Some people had left, and that was it. She would never look back to see what she had left behind, because everyone was becoming stronger and stronger to create a new life. But there was only Qin and Mo. She looked back. She even ran. He kept retreating. It was all for the sake of finding Qin and Mo. After knowing that Z was the person that Qin and Mo had been waiting for all these years, he couldn't help but sigh. Jiangzhu was envious. He hadn't changed either, but he didn't know how to cherish it. Therefore, no one would turn back for him. Jiangzhu had turned around and walked in the opposite direction of the dormitory. He didn't hear Yao Yao's rejection. His voice seemed to have faded away in his ears. Chapter 1686. Jiang's was stopped in his tracks, as though he couldn't believe his ears. She lifted her eyes. Before Shui Yao Yao could say anything, she was pulled into his arms by the other party. This was the female dormitory. Moreover, school hunk Kai had just confessed. The surrounding people hadn't left yet. They covered their mouths when they saw the scene. What's going on? Li Tao was confused. The only one who was conscious was Shui Yao Yao. She felt his body temperature. It was abnormally high. She pushed him. Jiang's was smiled, as though he didn't care. He knew he would be pushed away, but he still wanted to hug her, probably because he needed some strength to walk out. But before he could move, Shui Yao Yao grabbed his wrist. What's wrong with you? Why did you come out before your fever subsided? Jiang's was peach blossom eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of light. It was beautiful. Are you concerned about me now? You are my brother, even if we aren't related by blood. Shui Yao Yao glanced up. Jiang's will leaned against the tree, still looking handsome. I don't want to be your brother. Tell me, why did any Shui marry me and stop me from chasing you? Shui Yao Yao paused. That joke isn't funny. How is it a joke? Jiang's will lowered his lids. I like you, don't you know that? Shui Yao Yao looked at him. You didn't think about chasing me then. I was so fat, didn't you? You told everyone that you weren't close to me. Because I knew any Shui was going to be my stepmother. Jiang's lips were pale. I was a jerk, but I wanted to chase you. It wasn't a joke. Who else did you think gave you the flowers? Shui Yao Yao froze. You gave me the sky full of stars. Emrich, Jiang's chuckled. Didn't you say no one celebrated your birthday? Shui Yao Yao clenched her fingers. Why didn't you say that before? Because I felt that you betrayed me. Jiang's lowered his voice. You knew that I hated those who got close to my father, but you didn't tell me that Annie Shui had a boyfriend, that he was my father. Shui Yao Yao opened her mouth. That was true. At the end of the day, she was afraid that he would hate her, so she didn't tell him immediately. I only knew one day earlier than you. Shui Yao Yao was telling the truth. She was really weak at that time, but she had thought about telling him the next day. But that day, her brother started to have a stomachache, so she had to send him to the drip. When she saw Jiangzhu again, someone had dug out her diary and pasted it on the school newspaper. Everyone in the school knew that she had fallen in love with a high and mighty senior. People said that she was a toad trying to eat swan meat, and that she should not be a demon when she was so ugly and fat. She had only written those thoughts for him to read. She was well aware of the distance between them. I didn't have any real thoughts. At that time, Shui Yao Yao only wanted to make this person her goal. What was announced? She really wanted to run away, and he didn't even look at her. She thought he hated being liked by someone as fat as her. Only then would it be that kind of performance. It was like the nightmare that kept appearing after she fell in love with him, and then it became real. So it wasn't? Was there something else? Chapter 1687. MH, Jiangzhu replied. It wasn't until a long time later that I understood that you couldn't control Annie Shui's marriage to the Jiang family, because I couldn't either. It's all in the past. Shui Yao Yao glanced over, seemingly taking a deep breath. Let's go to the infirmary first. Jiangzhu lowered his lids, not moving. It's not in the past with me, because I still like you. Shui Yao Yao's fingers paused. Jiangzhu looked at her and stretched his hand out, his voice a little low. We signed a contract previously, and I want to renew it. This time, you can set the rules and I could do anything you want. If you think I was a jerk previously, you can vent your anger. But you have to be mine. Are you willing to renew this contract? Shui Yao Yao didn't speak. Jiangzhu stood there, feeling the weight of his hand hanging in the air. 1 second, 2 seconds, almost 10 seconds passed. Jiangzhu roughly knew her attitude, but he wasn't willing to accept it. His heart felt like it was soaked in ice water. It felt empty and cold, just as he was about to lose all hope. Too many scenes flashed through Shui Yaoyao's mind. In the end, it stopped at the scene where he called her Fat Yao Yao. Hence, Jiang's hand was about to hang down when Shui Yaoyao suddenly raised it. She seemed a little impulsive. If you renew the contract, if I get fat again, it's better if you get fat again, then no one will snatch you from me. Jiangzhu was faster to cut her off. Shui Yaoyao's eyes lit up. You know, I have an inferiority complex, and my thoughts run wild. You should also know that I look fickle and easily attract women. You have to be wary of them. Jiangzhu lowered his lids. Just be wary of them. Don't be wary of me. Shui Yaoyao couldn't help but laugh. Because of your looks? At the very start, he had complained about this on the rooftop. It's because we have money now. It could be said that young Master Jiang was very straightforward. Shui Yaoyao glanced over. I can't guarantee I will be like before. Let's try again. You want to return the goods after a bad test? Jiangzhu felt a tinge of bitterness in his heart, but it was more of a new lease of life. I won't let you have that chance. Shui Yaoyao chuckled lightly. Maybe other girls will give me this chance. For example, when they get close to you, it's not impossible that you can't control yourself. At this moment, Jiangzhu pulled her into his arms, lowered his body slightly, and whispered in her ear, "We've been together for so long, and you've slept in my office before. Have you ever seen my secretary with a girl?" When Shui Yaoyao heard this, the back of her neck turned red. No. Jiangzhu seemed to have hugged her gently, his tone carrying a sigh. It has always been only you. I have always only had you. Shui Yaoyao knew that she couldn't get rid of this person no matter what. Fortunately, things were different now. Now, when she heard these words, she would not lose her rationality. His heart could still beat, and there was a slight sweetness in it. So this was what it looked like when you like someone just right. Indeed, he couldn't let go of what happened in the past. She didn't even know how far they could go. He was trying to give himself a chance. If there was no other way, he could truly let go of the past. Chapter 1688. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they didn't quite understand. What exactly did the two of them say? In the end, someone said that the teaching assistant had a fever, and, as the sister, she must have been worried and couldn't care less about the school hunk's confession. As for the hug, it was easy to explain. After all, the teaching assistant had always cared about his sister. Only Yang, who was standing there, knew what was going on. Yao Yao had rejected him decisively because the reason was obvious, and he knew that even without Jiangzhu, Yao Yao wouldn't have accepted him. He still felt indignant. But what could he do even if he was indignant? Feelings weren't something that could be forced. That was probably the difference between Yang and Jiangzhu. From the start, Jiangzhu had been forceful towards Shui Yaoyao. Perhaps it wasn't appropriate to use such forcefulness on others, but it was just right for Yao Yao. And because of Jiangzhu's forcefulness, there was a continuation of the relationship. In a relationship, the person who was forceful was sometimes the person with the purest and deepest feelings. After Jiang's injection, Shui Yaoyao returned to the dormitory. When they first got together, they weren't as close as everyone thought. Even though Jiangzhu couldn't bear to let her go, he had to send her away. The moment Shui Yaoyao entered the dormitory, Li Tao walked over in confusion. "Yao Yao, why didn't you accept Senior?" "Because we aren't compatible." Shui Yaoyao chuckled lightly as she walked forward. Li Tao scratched her head. "I think you and Senior are quite compatible. Besides, the department belle came to you because of Senior. It's really unexpected that you rejected her like that." "What's unexpected?" The person lying on the upper bunk turned over. Yao Yao said she wasn't interested in the school honk. "Why? Senior is so nice." Li Tao's gaze was low, her voice heavy. Shui Yaoyao glanced up at her. "I have someone else in my heart. We had a misunderstanding in the past, but now we are at the stage of reconciliation." "Someone else? Who?" Li Tao and her roommates exchanged glances, confused. They hadn't seen Yao Yao's messages. Why was there someone else? Shui Yaoyao brought the toiletries over. "You will know in the future." I'm going to take a shower first before there's no hot water. There would be no hot water in the dormitory during the designated time. Shui Yaoyao wasn't lying. Someone was still waiting for Li Tao's message. What do you think? Was there any progress? Why did Junior Yaoyao reject our fourth brother? Li Tao replied. Yaoyao said she already has someone in her heart. Damn. No way. I always thought it was just an excuse Yaoyao used to block off the other girls. I didn't think there would really be such a person. Who else in C University could be more popular with girls than four? I really can't think of anyone. Li Tao replied again. Teaching assistant Jiang is more likable. Okay. I know you're Brother Jiang's fans. Brother Jiang definitely knows who it is. After all, they're siblings. After saying this, the man glanced at Lao Si, who was drinking, raised his hand, and dialed a string of numbers. Hello. Jiang had just finished dealing with the work that had been transferred over. His thin lips were still a little pale. Brother Jiang, if you and Junior Yaoyao are siblings, you should know everything about her, right? Chapter 1689. Yaoyao, and I don't have the same surname. You know that, right? Jiang's voice was indescribably nonchalant. The person on the other end replied, Yes, we follow our father's and mother's surnames. We think it's quite fashionable. Fashionable? Jiang's laughed softly. We aren't related by blood. That's why our surnames are different. The person on the other end paused. Not related by blood? Yes, Yaoyao and I are re-establishing a family. Jiang's peach blossom eyes lit up. We've known each other for 3 years. Annie Schwem married my dad for less than a year, and Yaoyao has a biological brother who calls me brother. The person on the other end of the line couldn't hold onto his phone. That's the case. Jiang's chuckled lightly. But I do know everything about her. Ask whatever you want to. That person thought that although the secret he knew was too big, he was still shocked. But he had to ask what he had to ask. Junior Yaoyao said she has someone else in her heart and rejected Si Li because of this. Brother Jiang, who is this person? Do you know? Jiang's eyes deepened, and he didn't beat around the bush. I know it's me. The person on the other end. There was a moment of silence. His tongue was in a knot. It's you? You wanted to hang up? What should he do? Jiang's voice drifted over again. There was a misunderstanding between us because my dad wanted to marry her mother. I always felt that they got close to us for money, and I don't want to be her sister. Before I came, everything had been resolved. Now that I've been legally removed from my father's name, it's legal for me to be with her, and I don't have to worry so much. But she's a girl, and it's different. I hope that she won't announce this news. If you can keep it to yourself, try not to. There are many people in the school, and they don't know what is going on. When the time comes, they will only say that she shouldn't be with me, since we are reorganizing our family. The person on the other end of the line didn't know what to do. The impact was too huge. Jiang's smile was low. If it's because of your Si Li, then there's no need. He's so smart. He should already know, so I hope you can keep this a secret. The person opened his mouth. What are you doing now? We have already reconciled. Jiang's voice was faint. Didn't I say from the start that I came here because of her? That person coughed lightly. Brother Jiang, I'm not a girl, so don't release your charm. When are you guys going to stop like this? Junior Yaoyao is so popular. Won't you feel insecure if you don't publicize it? Moreover, there are more people who like you. It's easy for misunderstandings to arise between the two of you. Break up. This question was a little harsh and realistic. Jiang's clenched his fists, his gaze faint. We'll talk about the rest when her life is stable. That person shook his head. Brother Jiang, I feel that you're quite pitiful now. You have a girlfriend, but you can't go public. You're even worse than us single dogs who don't have a girlfriend. Luckily, if you still have to show off your love to Junior Yaoyao when you're teaching us, then fourth brother really doesn't want to do research anymore. Brother Jiang, to be honest, are you worried that someone will confess to Junior Yaoyao every day? Jiang's paused. That person didn't expect him to admit it so directly. Then he smiled faintly. I'm not just afraid of that. Chapter 1690. She's only a freshman, We can talk about this when people aren't so curious about her. Curious? Your school hunk confessed downstairs. Everyone would be curious about her. Why did he hear jealousy in that sentence? Jiang's voice was still calm. In the future, focus on your development. If fourth brother has any matters, get him to look for me or her in private. Ordinary girls might not have to worry about curiosity, but Yao Yao is different. Besides, people who don't know the truth will talk about her, so I hope that you can keep a secret. That's not a problem. When that person heard this, he finally understood that Brother Zhang's feelings were indeed deeper than their fourth brother's. As for fourth brother, they should just drink together. In this state, it wasn't as if he didn't have the chance to snatch Junior Yao Yao over. Anyway, Brother Zhang wouldn't make it public. Just like that, it lasted for 2 weeks. The two of them tried to be together. He was really trying to do it. Jiang's would send a bunch of things to the dormitory, just like before. But Shui Yao Yao's state of mind had changed. She would look at the things and smile, then distribute them to her roommates. It seemed like everyone would pay attention to their dressing after being in a relationship. Shui Yao Yao was the same, just that it was appropriate. In addition, the classes were getting tighter, and there were projects to do. Hence, there were times when she would grab her hair and sink back into the game during the test. Jiangzhua was the counselor, and when he saw her like this, he would place a bottle of water beside her. He didn't show anything, but it still made people feel that there was an inexplicable intimacy between the two of them. The only time they could be alone was probably the journey from the lab to the dormitory. It was less than 10 minutes, and it was Jiangzhua who sent Shui Yao Yao. I want to have a brother too. Li Tao held the pastries for afternoon tea, feeling that being Yao Yao's roommate was a blessing. Although she still couldn't understand why Yao Yao didn't accept the school hunk. In the past, I really couldn't tell that Yao Yao was a rich second-generation heir, but looking at the way the teaching assistant acts, she is rich, really rich. Shui Yao Yao smiled. Do I look poor? It's not as high profile as the teaching assistant. Someone started posting pictures of the teaching assistant on the school website. He wanted to buy the same necklace, but when everyone searched for the price, it was 2,333. Li Tao shook her head. All right, Yao Yao, today is White Valentine's Day. How are you going to spend it? Why don't we invite the people from Senior Brother's dormitory out so that we can get together? Shui Yao Yao took a bite of the pastry. I have an appointment that day. You guys go. He has a date. The other people in the dormitory widened their eyes. Yao Yao chuckled. Yes. Didn't you reject Senior? Shui Yao Yao nodded and looked at them again. It has nothing to do with him. Wait, I have a call coming in. The person who called was the laboratory, saying that they wanted to add a test at the last minute. After Shui Yao Yao hung up, she didn't even have time to eat the cake. She grabbed her bag and rushed out of the dorm. Her roommates are dumbfounded. Who did Yao Yao make an appointment with today? Because it was a temporary test. There weren't many people there. Moreover, when Shui Yao Yao was testing the details of the game, she forgot everything. Chapter 1691. Outside C University. Jiangzhua found a restaurant. He didn't book the entire place like before, but was absolutely quiet. Such a place wasn't something most people could afford. But the more it was like this. When the people gradually left, the more deserted the place seemed. The restaurant was an all-glass house. Jiangzhua could see the lanterns outside from the corner of his head. These were all arranged by Jiangzhua, including the pumpkin carriage in the courtyard, plush dolls, and a large patch of roses. Although the two of them had been together before, they had never celebrated the festival that a couple should celebrate like this. Hence, Jiangzhua hadn't prepared these things in a day or two. Even the waiters in the restaurant hadn't seen such effort and thought he was going to propose. It wasn't common to put in so much effort and patience just to celebrate White Valentine's Day. From this angle, it was really beautiful. A few couples who came to eat thought that the restaurant had specially decorated it for Valentine's Day. Almost everyone took a photo, but when they took the photo, they felt that the lights sometimes looked like a word. Yao. It was probably an illusion. After all, there was a carriage. There was light music in the restaurant. The waiter had come over a few times. Sir, I'll get you a glass of lemonade. Because he was a big customer, he wouldn't rush him to order. Moreover, The kitchen had already prepared the ingredients for the dishes he wanted to eat and was just waiting for him to say that it was ready. Time trickled by. Jiangzhou listened to the artificial voice that said, "No one is picking up at the moment." He glanced sideways at the retro clock hanging in the middle of the restaurant. It was already 9 o'clock, and their appointment was at 7 o'clock. The waiter walked over again. "Sir, do you want me to prepare some bread for you first?" "Okay." Jiang's gaze landed. Sitting there alone, he didn't know why the more beautiful the environment, the more lonely he seemed. The second wave of customers were still puzzled. How could there be a handsome guy sitting in the best seat, but there was no one in front of him? At 9:30, the waiter came over again with a troubled expression. "Sir, our chefs get off work at 10. Do you want me to bring you the dishes you ordered first?" Jiangzhou looked at the emotionless phone screen. The waiter was also waiting there. "Would you like to contact your friend again?" "Sir, the dishes first." Jiangzhou sounded emotionless. "Yes, sir." When it was almost 10 o'clock, the last table of customers left. There was a huge pile of food on Jiang's table. The ingredients were all fresh and precious. But he didn't move. He originally wanted to make another call, but when he swiped through his moments, his fingers paused. Someone from the project team posted a photo. The second day of the dormitory get-together. So happy. These two are really a pair of ill-fated lovebirds. They're still taking the test, but I think they'll have a chance after the test. Jiangzhou looked at the photo. For some reason, even his fingers felt cold, not to mention the warmth coming from his chest. He did not wait any longer. After placing a napkin on the dining table, he stood up and walked out. The waiter looked at the table full of food and thought to himself that rich people were really wasteful. The other side, Shui Yaoyao didn't realize it was already 10 o'clock until she finished her work. Chapter 1692. Her first reaction was to get her phone. She hadn't expected the phone she didn't use for testing to run out of battery. Fortunately, there were many chargers here. After Shui Yaoyao charged the phone anxiously, she saw so many missed calls and messages on WeChat. She felt really guilty. Lin Yang had already packed up. He turned and said to Shui Yaoyao, "It's late. I'll take you out for dinner and then send you back." "No need, senior." Shui Yaoyao pressed her phone anxiously. "I'll settle it myself." Lin Yang knew that she obviously had a date. Actually, he could tell how important that person was to her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have looked up at him no matter what he said. Shui Yaoyao really didn't have time to care about others. After the messages stopped, her first reaction was to call Jiangzhou. His phone was turned off? Shui Yaoyao thought about it. It was too late to go to the restaurant now. At 10, it would definitely be closed. She went to the dormitory building to take a look. She wanted to leave, but was afraid that her phone would be turned off again. When the battery reached 10%, Shui Yaoyao just came out and was about to run over. She saw a person standing under the streetlight, looking up at her. Shui Yaoyao panted and was about to explain. He pulled her into his arms, his voice a little low. "I don't accept any excuses that don't fit after trying." Shui Yaoyao opened her mouth. Jiangzhou buried his face in her neck. "I saw your WeChat moments." "What WeChat moments?" Shui Yaoyao was confused. Jiangzhou's voice didn't seem to rise. "The photo of you doing the test together." Shui Yaoyao reacted. "Yes, I just wanted to tell you that it was really because I found a lot of loopholes in the test. I kept wanting to remember the loopholes and the feeling of the experience. Gradually, I lost track of time." "Yaoyao." Jiangzhou seemed to smile. "I know very well that you won't be like before, putting me first in everything. That's why you forgot." Shui Yaoyao didn't retort. She really wouldn't put all her thoughts into it now. "Then you feel tired?" Shui Yaoyao thought for a moment. Recently, he had been the one doing all the work. Jiangzhou lowered his voice. "I will feel helpless, but compared to the current state, I'm more afraid of you and that person having something going on." "That person?" Shui Yaoyao reached out and paused for a moment before placing her hand on his back. "Are you talking about Senior? It's impossible for me to be with him. I rejected him a long time ago. You know that." Jiang's gaze was deep. "It's clear, but when I see that photo, I still wonder why I'm not the one playing. You know, I reek of money and can't be compared to them." Shui Yaoyao chuckled. Can you be so jealous? Jiangzhu glanced up. Why can't I? Shui Yaoyao stopped Jiangzhu with one sentence. You are mature. Jiangzhu laughed again, peach blossoms reflected in his eyes. I realize that you're getting better at dealing with me. Shui Yaoyao apologized seriously. I was wrong today. Jiangzhu lowered his gaze. Shouldn't you compensate me? Shui Yaoyao arched a brow. Compensation? Chapter 1693. Shui Yaoyao paused, lowering her lids. MH, she didn't think she would fail. She was the one who didn't. Without a doubt, Shui Yaoyao was blessed. Similarly, she wouldn't make the person she was with feel uneasy. Since they had decided to be together again, she had to show her confidence. Especially when they were having supper, she saw Jiang's post and knew that he had prepared so much. This thought intensified. Shui Yaoyao had always been a gentle person. Perhaps in the eyes of others, she didn't have a personality. But in Jiang's eyes, she knew that he was understanding. In the past, he didn't know how to cherish. It seemed that all lovers in the world were like this. After being separated once, they would calmly think about what had caused the misunderstanding between the two of them. Although Shui Yaoyao had been busy this time and forgot about the date. But after this time, the barrier between the two of them seemed to have disappeared. To Li Tao, Yaoyao was getting prettier. Shui Yaoyao smiled faintly. Let him treat everyone to a meal today. Him? Li Tao's eyes widened. The person in your heart? Honestly, you guys are together now, right? Yaoyao, your expression changed when you mentioned him. Shui Yaoyao didn't deny it. I want to tell you guys, but I thought it would be better to be formal. The test is over and we can have a meal together. No problem. We have to eat. They had to see who had defeated their senior, the school hunk, to become the white moonlight in Yaoyao's heart. Shui Yaoyao felt that she had to tell Jiangzhu first. She made a call. Jiangzhu paused, his lips curving up uncontrollably. Is that why you're turning me into a permanent member? Shui Yaoyao was thin-skinned, her cheeks flushing. Are you free for dinner? I'll arrange it. You don't have to explain anything. I'll explain later. Jiangzhu chuckled. Everyone in your dorm can eat. Let's go somewhere with a good environment and big portions. Shui Yaoyao was glad that she wasn't on speaker. What did he mean by everyone in her dorm could eat? But Li Tao, who was closest to them, heard it and asked in confusion, how does your boyfriend know that we can eat? Because he was the one who ordered afternoon tea every day. Shui Yaoyao didn't say this. Instead, she said helplessly, don't you know how to refute? I really can eat. Li Tao frowned. Why do I feel that the voice over there sounds familiar? Shui Yaoyao knew she wasn't good with words, so she didn't say much. You'll know when we're eating. Jiangzhu chose a private restaurant. Such a small restaurant didn't look expensive, but in fact, it was quite sophisticated. However, eating at such a place wouldn't make people feel like they were flaunting their wealth. Those who have sharp eyes will know that Yao Yao's boyfriend is taking care of these students. Li Tao nudged Shui Yaoyao. Your boyfriend isn't bad, but for him to eat at such a place, he can't be much older than you, right? Yaoyao laughed. What are you thinking about? Chapter 1694. Shui Yaoyao was about to speak. The waiter said, We're here. It was a private room by the window. Jiangzhu was already seated there. When he saw them, he stood up and took the bag from Yaoyao's hands, his smile still filled with love. Is there a traffic jam at this hour? It's all right. Shui Yaoyao was already used to such actions. The few people beside them seemed to have lost their souls when they saw this scene. What was going on? Even when they sat down, they felt like they were in a dream. Where was Yaoyao's boyfriend? Where was he? No, it couldn't be a teaching assistant, right? Jiangzhu poured tea for them, and after a smile, he told them everything that had happened between him and Shui Yaoyao. Li Tao's first reaction was, Then why did you come to see university? For her. Just these 3 words were enough to move the hearts of others. If the first half was said to be in a daze, then in the second half. Since they were teaching assistants, and they had known each other for such a long time, it didn't matter if they ate a little more. Finally, Jiangzhu felt that he could hold his head high and be the first in Yaoyao's heart. The waiter from a small restaurant walked over. Because he was dressed in ancient attire, he looked like a waiter. But the waiter held a small tablet in his hand, only the size of a palm. One look, and it was obvious it wasn't sold in the market. "May I know who is Miss Shui Yao Yao?" Shui Yao Yao placed her chopsticks down and glanced up. "It's me. A customer left this here. He said that you had arranged to have a meal here, and he would give it to you when you showed up." Jiang's eyes flashed. He even knew where they were having their meal. Could he be a scammer? Li Tao's worry wasn't without reason. Shui Yao Yao wouldn't believe everything until she took the tablet and saw the logo. Her eyes seemed to tremble. This was the Supreme Alliance's team logo. Shui Yao Yao's fingers moved slightly, opening the page. A line of words entered her eyes. It was this line of words that made Shui Yao Yao cover her mouth with her hand. Her eyes even reddened. But very quickly, she suppressed the emotions. When he raised his head again, his eyes seemed to be able to burn something. Jiang's didn't need to look to know who sent it. Spade Z. However, there were some deviations in the contents. When he saw the tablet page, he was also stunned. Li Tao and the others didn't know what was written on it. They only felt that Yao Yao was exuding an indescribable happiness from inside out. At this time, in Waterfront City, not far from Sea University, after the three gods of Xiangnan retired, they recruited a lot of new people. One of them took a very interesting path. Some students were very excited. Even when they were eating, they kept saying, "I feel that she is really like my Almighty Z. She is so handsome." Almighty T is Almighty T. Don't say that every handsome guy is like Spade Z. Even though I like Spade Z, I can't stand it. Ever since Supreme Alliance disbanded, Spade fans probably wouldn't come out anymore. Just because I dyed my hair silver, called Spade T, and was hailed as the light of the future, I have to be messed with? Anyway, I like them both. Me too. Spade fans should stop. It's so annoying to fantasize everywhere. Chapter 1695. It's just the same name. Are you going to cause a ruckus? The chef arched a brow. The ruckus is a Spade fan. If they aren't Spade fans, then who are they? The person who was called Uncle trembled. He was indignant. "I'm so handsome, and you call me Uncle? You are the uncle. All right." He took a deep breath. "Come, let's analyze it. This Spade T, right? It isn't a big deal to have the same name. It's normal to bump into each other. Let me explain. Under normal circumstances, we should resolve the matter. After all, Supreme Alliance has been disbanded, and Spadesy hasn't appeared for 3 months. Why do we have to bring up Spade fans? As far as I know, a lot of Spadesy's fans have quietened down following Spadesy's retirement. All right, your Almighty T is very popular, so popular that you can gather this group of people. Then let me ask you, do you have to disguise as a man to compete nowadays? Do you have to use the same name? All of these are fine. It isn't a problem since there are businesses involved, and no one can say anything, right? The latter part was hilarious. Your Almighty T, the light of the future, hasn't even heard of Spadesy? MMH, such a beautiful move. I'm impressed. What do you mean? The few girls glanced at each other. Is there something wrong with this uncle? The fat chef pointed at himself. Something wrong with me? Something wrong with me? Anyway, we Spade fans know that we are in the wrong this time. I like T too. They all have their own specialties, all right? If Uncle doesn't understand, then don't say it. He didn't understand? What in the world most handsome understand? He was from Xiangnan too. Ever since the moment he came out, both he and his captain understood. Xiangnan was no longer the Xiangnan of the past. And love. This word was so cheap. Most importantly, he had never been a real Spade fan. Yet he had to take the blame for someone who took the blame. He knew what it was like to have such love. It was easy to cater to it. He had never said that he would never forget Little Spade, the days when Xiangnan and Supreme Alliance battled. But he understood one thing. That person, the group of people, no one could replace them. He wouldn't go anywhere to look for their shadows. They were vividly etched in his memory, even though he was used to holding a mouse in his hand. Now he was holding a kitchen knife. He shook his head. In fact, there was nothing much to say. After all, he was about to become an uncle. There was an indescribable pain in his heart. When Luo left, he knew that Xiangnan's golden triangle was gone. When Supreme Alliance disbanded, he understood that some things would gradually be replaced. There was only a trace of hot blood in him. After all, they had a past. Now, Zhao Sanpeng didn't know if he would still retain that passion. Perhaps it had been too long since he had been on the battlefield. It had only been 3 months in the shop. The inconspicuous fat figure lowered his eyes and looked at his own hands. No one would understand. Why was it trembling slightly? Those girls who said, "I like Xiangnan so much, I like tea so much," would never understand. He hadn't been acknowledged from the start. To be the champion for 3 years in a row. Then, the Golden Triangle disbanded. Our dreams have been broken again and again. Then, they would stick back again and again. But this time, Zhao Sanpeng didn't seem to know how to stick back. Or maybe he was really too naive. What was he thinking about? His hot blood couldn't cool down. Chapter 1696. The most handsome man in the world? These words made Zhao Sanpeng, who was about to walk into the kitchen, stiffen. Something seemed to be faintly heating up in his frozen chest. Zhao Sanpeng clenched his fists tightly and turned back. A faint light shone in. In that instant, fireworks rose. It seemed as though the sky, full of light, could be reflected in that person's black eyes. That person still looked like a youngster. He was dressed in a delivery man's uniform, his figure tall and slender. He wore a cap on his head, faintly revealing the silver inside. The youngster wore a black earring on her ear, giving off a faint glow. The brim of the cap covered the sharp side of his face. Only the shocking curve of his chin could be seen. That person's thin lips curved into a devilish smile. His feet seemed to be able to crush the galaxy. When he looked at him, there was a hint of teasing in his lazy manner. F*CK, F*CK. That was Zhao Sanpeng's first reaction. He was so agitated that he removed his mask, forgetting that there was someone beside him. "Little Spade, why are you here? Why are you back?" "Little Spade?" When the girls who were eating over there heard this, they all looked over. The delivery man raised his hand and took off his cap. His silver hair fell, shattering like light. The youngster pushed her silver hair to the back of her head, revealing a perfect face that was like a devil's. Her eyes were extremely beautiful. Just like before, it was full of disguise. "I wanted to deliver a package in silence, but since you're so handsome, I couldn't help but show myself." Bojio smiled slightly. She stuffed her left hand into her trouser pocket and held a small wooden box in her right hand. She looked just like a devil in a manga. The girls were in a daze. Everything seemed to have been slowed down. Spadesy. Was it really Spadesy? Bojio didn't look at them. She walked slowly towards Zhao Sanpeng and arched a brow. "Almighty fatty, aren't you going to see what I sent?" "Wait a minute." Zhao Sanpeng glanced behind her. "It definitely isn't just you. Where's my nemesis, Scheming Chin and Shameless Chin? Where is he?" Bojio seemed to be having a headache. "Recently, he has been giving me the cold shoulder. A single person like you wouldn't be troubled like me." "Zhao Sanpeng, I'm asking you where he is, not asking you to prick my heart. I really want to throw him out now. But I didn't come alone." Bojio turned sideways. A person carrying a small school bag walked in with a pile of food in her hands. These were all bought by her master along the way. This made the little girl want to sigh. But because that face was so beautiful, there was no emotion at all. Therefore, it only made people feel that the contrast was cute. "Little Poker Face is here too." Zhao Sanpeng went up and wanted to pat Little Bei's head. One must know that he really liked Little Bei. Bojio blocked him. "Almighty fatty, this is my disciple. You can touch his head, but 100 per touch." The corner of Zhao Sanpeng's mouth twitched when he heard that. Scourges would live for 1,000 years indeed. It was the same for money grubbers. "Let's be serious. Why did you come back? Could it be?" Zhao Sanpeng glanced at the girls whose souls were clearly gone. "Because of these?" Bojio followed his gaze. Suddenly, she smiled. That smile was truly bewitching. Chapter 1697. Zhao Sanpeng didn't understand. He arched a brow. "Because of me? Did you fall for my beauty?" I know I'm handsome, but I don't have any thoughts of snatching you away from scheming Qin. Bojio smirked. Almighty fatty, don't worry. I can't admire someone as handsome as you. Then why? Do you want to learn culinary skills? Zhao Sanpong's talkative nature was triggered. You came to the right place. Let me tell you, the tomato scrambled eggs I make now is very delicious. Bojio replied slowly. Those who have a partner don't need to learn how to cook. Besides, I have a disciple. Zhao Sanpeng. He couldn't continue the conversation. You should take a look at the delivery. Bojio smiled. You'll understand. Delivery? Zhao Sanpong's gaze landed on the small wooden box in her right hand. He still felt that something was amiss when scheming Qin didn't come. What exactly was inside the small wooden box? Zhao Sanpeng reached out to open it. There was something that looked like a tablet inside. It was thinner and smaller than a common iPad. He glanced up at Bojio. Did you make this? The youngster replied lazily. The main point is the content inside. What? Zhao Sanpeng paused. His eyes slowly widened. There seemed to be huge waves in his eyes. The fluctuation was so obvious that his pupils were shaking. When did this happen? 3 days ago. Bojio sat there with one hand supporting the side of her face. Her messy silver hair fell down. She looked like an oriental vampire. How is it? Do you want to come back? Zhao Sanpeng suppressed the raging air in his chest. His voice was hoarse. Why do you want to come back? We have already retreated. You know how they treated Luoluo and why the 3 of us retired. Now that you heard these people, why do you want to come back? If you ask me, my answer is simple. Bojio stood up. She tilted her handsome face casually. Come back. Let's shake up the esports competition again. Let's tell some people that daddy is still his daddy. Zhao Sanpeng paused. When he looked up again, there was a storm brewing in his eyes. The girls sitting at the side were really confused. Bojio walked over, a faint smile on her face. Actually, I don't care what you say, but why are you taking the blame for my fans? Someone said he likes Xiangnan, right? The person standing in front of you is Zhao Sanpeng, Xiangnan, oh no, the best tank in the entire server. He was the champion for 3 consecutive years, even though Supreme Alliance defeated him in the end. Zhao Sanpeng thought. If you didn't add that last sentence, I would have thought that you were complimenting me. But he's still number 1 in the entire server. Bojio leaned forward slowly, inching closer to one of the girl's ears. The people who supported us till now were never like you. With that, Bojio glanced up towards Zhao Sanpeng. Almighty fatty, are you going to reject coming back because of these people? I have always liked Luoluo because she knew what the world was like. She still had the sorcerer's support and stood in the middle of the map. With her around, we had to consider how to break through Xiangnan. If we weren't careful, we might be controlled. She didn't retire because of these people. Bojio stood up slowly. She stood against the light. She felt that her hand speed was too slow and wouldn't be able to keep up with Xiangnan. She wanted you to win. Chapter 1698. In that instant, the haze that had been in his heart for a long time dissipated. From the day Luoluo retired, Zhao Sanpeng felt a sense of helplessness. The top sorcerer of a national server had to retire in such a manner. Other than themselves, no one could understand the meaning of the Golden Triangle. To the audience, as long as the script was the same, they would like it. Hence, it didn't matter who left. But to him, it was Luoluo, just Luoluo. In the future, no matter how many people came out, they wouldn't be from the Golden Triangle. Zhao Sanpeng removed his apron, his gaze deep. Let me ask you a question. Why didn't you get rid of those people? It shouldn't be difficult for you. Bojio glanced over, her eyes bright. If I dug a pit for you to jump, would you jump? Zhao Sanpeng bit his teeth. Speak clearly. I say, don't you take other people's love too seriously? Bojio's handsome face carried a faint smile. Some people like you today, but they will like someone else tomorrow. You aren't clear about it yourself. You and Almighty Shao retired together because you can't keep up with the current situation. There are people more suitable than both of you. They know how to take every step. That's why such a situation occurred. Am I really going to jump in and help them? Grandpa Fatty, some people like you because they like you in the process of pursuing them. That's why they say that you can't be replaced while looking for similar people to like you. This is very normal. If you use these things to restrict yourself, how are you going to move your mouse? Zhao Sanpeng's gaze dimmed. So, what can we do with some people? Sir Fatty. Bo Jio's gaze deepened. Have you watched Animal World? Zhao Sanpeng asked. That movie. Bo Jio smiled mischievously. Manga, we haven't finished fighting the war we should be fighting. We might lose one day, but we have protected our principles. It's not that we can't do anything to some people, but we don't want to become like them. Zhao Sanpeng trembled. He glanced up. I'm back. All right. Bo Jio stretched. I finally completed my mission. It was a job to train my eloquence. Zhao Sanpeng asked, do you need to train your eloquence? Why are you the one looking for me? We're scheming Qin. This should be his responsibility. Isn't it the same if I do it, and he does it? Bo Jio replied lazily. He's mine anyway. Zhao Sanpeng chuckled. So what about him? Bo Jio tapped the tablet in his palm. Of course it's with someone else. Afternoon, River Town. Kacha kacha. The rhythmic sound of the keyboard echoed in the air. It was the same in any internet cafe. There was a faint smell of smoke. There was also the smell of instant noodles. From time to time, he would shout, Dragon, dragon, dragon. They're fighting dragons. The network administrators who passed by were all shocked. Playing around again? I really have to be more wretched. Manager, here's a bottle of Coke for free. Wait a minute. The manager was a newcomer. He had only been working for half a month, but he felt that his boss was the boss. He didn't look like the boss of an internet cafe. Sitting at the bar, his smiling eyes, but in the next second, let you feel a different sense of oppression. Boss. Boss isn't back yet. Call me acting boss. The manager coughed. Acting boss. There seems to be a lot of people playing Hero online recently. Why is that? Why? Rao Rong's fingers stilled. Chapter 1699. Rao Rong was about to speak. Just then, there was the sound of the door opening. The manager turned to look. A person walked in. The man was wearing a dark trench coat with a pure white shirt inside, giving off a cold and noble vibe. His face was handsome, and half of it was covered by a pure black mask. Her cold and fair complexion and curves were like the finest porcelain jade. He seemed to have walked out of a manga, his legs long and slender, his body tall and straight, his eyes filled with a faint indifference. Even though the surroundings were noisy, he didn't seem to be affected at all. The manager was still thinking about how he looked like a young master from an aristocratic family. Why would he appear in an internet cafe? Just then, he saw the man walk over slowly. The manager didn't know why, but he felt an indescribable pressure. He seemed too much like the final boss in a game. Sir. Before he could finish his sentence, his boss smiled. Then, they heard their boss's slow voice carry a hint of a smile. Why are you back? They knew each other? The manager thought to himself that his boss didn't seem like an internet cafe owner. The people he knew weren't ordinary either. The man removed his mask, the coolness intensifying. Who else could it be? Are you going to chat here? On the big screen in the internet cafe was the 3,000 knife cutting that he had used in the Asian Cup, as well as his side profile. The manager looked at the screen and then at him, his eyes widening. Almighty. Manager, my Coke. Someone stood up. However, the network administrator felt like he was dreaming. The hand holding the iced Coke didn't seem like his own, knocking against the table leg twice. When he came back, there was no one at the bar counter. Even their boss was gone. What was going on? He really saw Almighty Qin just now. He lowered his head and started a post on WeChat. I had a dream. I saw Almighty Qin in an internet cafe. F***CK. He's so handsome in real life. Very quickly, someone replied, Bro, you were dreaming. That's impossible. Actually, it wasn't impossible, but the specific information about this internet cafe was only known to the fans of Supreme Alliance. After that, they said the manager had changed and no one had specially looked for it. But they weren't sure. It was Rao Rong. He was one of the 3 captains back then, the best team controller in the country. At the same time, Xiao family. Everyone was beaming with joy. Young master, wait with young madam. Madam and the rest are upstairs. They will come down after some preparation. Okay. Xiao Jing sat down with them. Luoluo's face heated up. Young madam, it had been 3 months. When Luoluo knew she was going to meet her captain's parents, she felt a little nervous. After all, her family values were really related to knowledge. Whenever she was nervous, she would say to Xiao Jing, "It's all my fault for not studying hard before." Xiao Jing glanced at her, pulled her over, and lowered his head to kiss her. "They're already very happy that I'm not gay." Xiao Jing was probably the only person who would use this excuse to comfort his wife. Luoluo smiled beautifully. "Does uncle and auntie suspect that you're gay?" Chapter 1700. Qin Jing Couple. Luoluo couldn't help but laugh. "Both of you are very popular. I almost became a fan of both of you. Uncle and Annie have a different way of educating people. It's probably because all your attention was on Qin and Mo at that time." Xiao Jing glanced sideways. "I'm just studying my opponent. Is it that funny?" "A little." Luoluo always said whatever was on her mind in front of him. Her eyes were bright and her teeth were white. What else did Uncle and Auntie do because of this? Xiao Jing's hand didn't leave Luoluo's hair. He continued to tangle with it. "You asked me indirectly how big of a place Qin and Mo occupies in my heart." When Luoluo heard this, she laughed so hard that her shoulders trembled. "He does look a little gay. He should record it and send it to Jiao." Xiao Jing looked at the person beside him. When he got closer, he said in a low voice, "Let's test it tonight." "Test?" Luoluo didn't understand. Her smile was filled with confusion. Xiao Jing's lips fell on her hair. "Let's test whether I'm straight or straight on you." In an instant, Luoluo felt as though she was scalded. His heart trembled slightly. His face was slightly hot. Xiao Jing looked at her blushing face and smiled. "It should be fine after meeting your parents." Why was he asking her such a question? Luoluo wanted to get up. However, he grabbed her wrist. "What are you going to do? Drink some water." Luoluo's eyes moved away slightly. She didn't look at that face. This was simply against the rules. He clearly knew that she had no resistance against him. Xiao Jing chuckled. "Here's my teacup." Luoluo took it. She wanted to divert her thoughts by drinking tea. Xiao Jing narrowed his eyes. "I don't want to ask anymore. What else did my parents say? What else did he say? As long as it wasn't a topic of conversation, everything would be fine." Xiao Jing's voice was indifferent. "Although Qin and Mo is handsome, he already has a girlfriend. Let me be mentally prepared." Luoluo wanted to laugh again. At this moment, a voice came from the other side. "Xiao Jing, what nonsense are you saying to Luoluo?" It was Mother Xiao. Knowing that her son was going to bring his girlfriend, she was overjoyed. The Xiao family was indeed engaged in scientific research. Other than medical research, there are also some things that could be used by the military. They were all in the courtyard. This time, his son returned to the main family. They were worried that he had come back because of Qin Feng. One had to know that the last time her son came back, he said that he was investigating something for Qin Brat. Luoluo's appearance was like a savior. From the moment Xiao Taiying's mother sat down, she started to say that her son was boring and that he didn't know what romance was. He asked Luoluo to be more tolerant, and even said that they were teammates. Then I would be at ease. He liked to play games. He said a lot. Luoluo knew very well that this situation happened because of a certain someone's previous topic. Mrs. Xiao had thought about letting her son marry someone from the system in the future. The professors had told her that the girls who did experiments with Xiao Jing were all very good. He was just shocked by his son's reaction. Every time he said not interested, no one was interested in telling him. Apart from that brat from the Qin clan, who could make him say a few more words. Nothing else would work. Mrs. Xiao was really worried. Now, she looked at Luoluo's face. No wonder he didn't like the girls I introduced to him. Chapter 1701. Madam, it's a delivery. Delivery? Madam Xiao furrowed her brows. She had never called for a delivery and never bought anything online. Why would there be a delivery? Did you send it to the wrong place? Madam Xiao stood up. The delivery man said from the door, "Mr. Qin asked me to send it here." I am from a company that runs errands. He has something from Mr. Xiao Jing. Qin? Madame Xiao looked toward her son. Why did Qin appear again? Was Luo his son too? Xiao Jing knew what his mother was thinking. Luo and I aren't fake. I won't use her as a shield. In the future, don't read too many stories. After Madame Xiao's thoughts were exposed, she coughed softly. Child, when did I ever think that way? Luo couldn't help but laugh. You and Qin are too close. And he can't be blamed for thinking too much. Right? Madame Xiao finally found someone to speak up for her. Xiao Jing glanced down. When did I say that you and Z are even closer? Luo. Xiao Jing stood up and walked to the door. He took the item from the delivery man's hands. He opened the first layer of packaging. There was another layer of packaging. He touched it through the bag. Xiao Jing didn't know what was inside, so he set his eyes on the tablet-like thing first. What is it? Luo walked over. Xiao Jing let her look at the tablet in his palm. His slender fingers swiped across the screen, and he clicked on it. Luo's gaze was clearly shocked. She tilted her face and instinctively wanted to capture Xiao Jing's expression. The emotions in her heart seemed to be tumbling out. However, Xiao Jing pressed the pause button. His deep eyes fell on her face. Luo urged him. Why don't you finish reading? Xiao Jing's voice was calm. I have retired. There's nothing to see. Luo was still looking at him. She smiled. You are worried that I will feel sad if I am not on the list. That's why you stopped reading. Xiao Jing's hand, which was about to put the tablet back, paused. His gaze deepened. It's meaningless if we're not together. Luo looked at him with flames in her eyes. How is it meaningless? Even if I don't participate as a member of the team, I can still be your fan. At the very least, I can apply for an assistant position. After all, I have a gaming foundation. I understand. Xiao Jing reached out and pulled her over, holding her in his arms. Okay, I'll go back. Luo smiled. Her smile was like a raging fire. Her eyebrows and eyes were like a painting. It was just like when she first appeared in front of everyone. Some people also said that she looked the most like the characters in the game. When she wielded a magic staff or carried a sniper cannon in the game, there was no one who wouldn't be intimidated by her powerful aura. Applying for an assistant position, Xiao Jing lowered his eyes. You will definitely be on the list. Before Luo could speak, Xiao Jing didn't touch the tablet again. Instead, he followed the instructions given by the higher-ups. He picked up the package next to him. He reached out and tore it. The thing slid down from the inside. This is a battle uniform? Luo picked it up. Xiao Jing's eyes lit up. That's right, it's a battle uniform. Moreover, there are two sets. Two sets, which meant... Luo looked up. Xiao Jing lifted up his black and red uniform, and two huge words appeared in front of him. Chapter 1702. Huaxia, flamboyant and flamboyant. Luo could see the fire burning in Xiao Jing's eyes. No man wouldn't hope that his hard work and struggle could be used to win glory for the country. And this day had finally come. It was being reported online and on television. Currently, the number of gamers in China had reached 500 million. This meant that China's esports was starting to be known. But just being known wasn't enough. Many people thought that it was something that only internet addicts would do. No one would advocate being addicted to games. But if it was esports, there was no harm in giving it a try. Perhaps no one knew. In 2005, there was a champion player who wore the Chinese flag and won limitless glory. The host's voice came slowly, as though he was telling a story. Ever since that time, it seemed as though victory had never belonged to China. I believe that this year will be different. This was what the shoutcaster said as he looked at the screen. At the same time, Lin Corporation Building, a university classroom, a remote town in Tibet, an amusement park for rich kids, in the villa of the Feng family, and in the fields where the crops were being harvested. Lin Feng, Yin Huin Wiao Coco, Feng Shang, Lin Chentao. All of them received a small tablet at the same time. He opened the tablet, and there was only one sentence on it. 3 days ago, Qin Mo was summoned back to China. At first, he thought that he had to do some mission. Unexpectedly, his father didn't call him because of the military. Instead, he brought him ahead of him. Qin Mo knew that person. He glanced sideways and only gave him 3 words. I won't rebuild. Before the person could finish his words, he was stopped. After making a phone call, he said, I won't rebuild. Mr. Qin Mo, are you willing to come back and form a Chinese team? You can lead our country's esports players and represent China. Qin Mo paused. Me? Who will choose the players? Me? This. The person went out to make another phone call. After returning, he said, as long as the players are 18 years old, Mr. Qin Mo can choose. We have a list here. Qin Mo stood up. I'm not interested in the list you provided. In the esports battlefield, cooperation and winning are the most important. What do you think? Of course. But that person still wanted to recommend some fresh blood. These 2 are not bad. Do you want to take a look, Mr. Qin? Qin Mo raised his eyebrows and scanned the paper in his hand. One of the Spade T and Flawless Luoluo were the top choices. He lifted his eyes and looked at the man. His aura was so strong that no one dared to look him in the eye. This is the name list you provided? That person replied. These newcomers are performing well and are very popular. Mr. Qin, I know you have feelings for some people and would definitely want to choose people you are familiar with to participate in the competition. However, this competition is different. I hope you can look at the bigger picture. Are you sure that's what the committee thinks? Qin Mo's voice softened. Coming to me means that they approve of my choice. That person chuckled. Of course, apart from the competition, it's also important to support newcomers, right? Sure. Qin Mo glanced sideways. Let the 2 of them team up and defeat Bei. That person paused. This, isn't it a little difficult? Aren't you going to support a newcomer? Qin Mo's gaze deepened. Perhaps I can guide him personally. Chapter 17:03. Qin Mo glanced over. The curve of his chin was still beautiful. What is this? That person smiled. These 2 people are inexperienced, but they have potential. When they get used to it, we will let them fight with Mr. Qin Mo sure. Qin Mo stuffed a hand into his trouser pocket and walked over. Tell the committee that we can talk about the competition when you're fired. That person's face stiffened. Mr. Qin Mo, are you determined to suppress the newcomers? Suppress? Qin Mo glanced down and suddenly laughed. There was a layer of coldness in his eyes. I hate people like you who tamper with things but still act righteously. That person changed his words quickly. Mr. Qin Mo, indeed, if my suggestion doesn't agree with you, you can choose not to accept it, but you don't have to say that. After all, I like you guys very much. Qin Mo stuffed a hand into his pocket and said faintly, Oh, if you like me, then it's easy. Get lost and I will be back. That person immediately flicked his sleeves and left. He made a phone call as he walked, saying that Qin Mo wasn't willing to fight. He was too arrogant and he couldn't persuade him. Qin Mo's expression didn't change as he listened. After a few minutes, that person was dragged back. Qin Mo adjusted his sleeves and looked at him. His gaze was faint but cold. That person wanted to jump up. Qin Mo walked in front of him, holding his phone in his right hand. He made a call in front of that person. That person's face turned pale when he saw the number he dialed. Mr. Qin Mo, hello. Qin Mo didn't bother with him, his voice calm. Mr. Zhang, it's me. I heard from Mr. Yang that you aren't willing to fight. Is there something you haven't resolved? The voice was still regretful. Qin Mo's gaze landed on that person's forehead, watching his unconscious uneasiness. His emotions didn't change. Mr. Yang introduced 2 newcomers to me. After listening to them, I decided to find them to fight first. According to Mr. Yang, the old people are no longer able to make it, and it's time to add a new blood. Otherwise, the old people will be attacking the newcomers. Once Mr. Zhang heard this, he knew that his subordinates had messed things up. Why did they look for Qin Mo? Did Mr. Yang understand? Other than him, no one else could carry the banner of China's esports. Qin Mo was the only one who could bring them back. Why are you stuffing people in at this critical juncture? President Zhang didn't know what was going on. It was normal for the clubs and teams to want to surpass Supreme Alliance. It was impossible to remain the same. But this kind of thing could be done normally. This was a huge competition. Did Director Yang not know? President Zhang took a deep breath and said, "When he comes back, I will get him to hand in his resignation." Of course I have to hand in my resignation. Qin Mo's voice didn't change. But I thought about it. Miss Yang is right about one thing. This is an international competition. You can't just choose someone based on seniority. If you want to join, you have to show your capabilities. Since Miss Yang thinks that we seniors are suppressing the newcomers, I'm afraid some of their fans are the same. When Head Yang heard this, he didn't understand. Was he speaking up for him? President Zhang frowned. What do you want to do? Chapter 1704. That Director Yang's expression changed instantly. He wanted to reject. No matter what people said, these two people had their own characteristics. They were the future of esports and had nothing to do with Spade Z and Luo Luo. They just had similar names and used the same trick. But Director Yang knew that those who watched their competition knew that Spade Z and Luo Luo were in it. Since so many people liked Spade Z, there must be something good about her. On the other hand, Luo Luo had a topic to talk about. He had chosen these two people because they were smart and had found each other's characteristics. Many people thought that it wasn't smart for them to say, "We don't know Spade Z and Luo Luo. Spade Z and Luo's fans, please leave." But in reality, it was smart. It didn't matter if Spade Z and Luo's fans went or not. Once these words were said, they would be bound. They would be bound to Spade Z and Luo Luo so naturally, they would be popular. Moreover, everyone would think that Spade Z and Luo's fans were jumping around. To put it bluntly, it was just one sentence. They really hoped that Spade Z's fans would cause trouble. Unfortunately, Spade Z's fans were silent and didn't cause trouble. If that was the case, there would be more than this number of fans. If Qin Mo used his main account to fight with these two people, Director Yang would definitely not reject him. Anyway, even if he lost, the topic would be brought up. Their popularity would only increase and not decrease. But now, Qin Mo wanted to use his secondary account to fight with them during their live stream. This was really a slap in the face. Director Yang panicked. He didn't care that the phone was in Qin Mo's hands and shouted, "President, this is too much of a blow to the newbie's enthusiasm. It isn't a good idea." Qin Mo glanced over calmly. His voice was still emotionless. "So, President Zhang, what do you plan to do?" President Zhang took a deep breath. "Understand. I will send someone else over. Gather everyone. 3 days later, they will be live streaming and you will go and fight." When Director Yang heard this, he was instantly dispirited. How was he going to develop in the future? Guildmaster Zhang also rubbed his head. Just when did such a problem appear down there? He roughly knew what Director Yang was thinking. It was just that he had taken the wrong path and chosen the wrong place. They were going to represent the country in the competition. President Zhang thought that by saying this, they would calm down. But Qin Mo was Qin Mo. As smart as he was, he had long seen through these things. He looked up and said, "Shall I gather everyone?" President Zhang paused. "No, you make a name list. I'll get them to invite them back." "President, you know it, but Dean Yang doesn't seem to understand something. Regardless of whether it's me or the others, this battle is for China. If it was just for you guys, no one would have come back." For the first time, Guild Leader Zhang tasted the feeling of not being able to speak. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. Qin Mo glanced at Mr. Yang, his expression unchanged. "You should be glad that we have China as an excuse this time. Otherwise, I would have chased someone like you out." Mr. Yang only felt angry. However, President Zhang, who was on the other end of the phone, felt a chill run down his spine when he heard the commotion on the other end. He knew that Qin Mo wasn't just talking to Mr. Yang, but to him as well. For the country, they would definitely go to war. But don't even think about doing anything here. Chapter 1705. Now, 3 days had passed. Everyone had received their own summons. Qin Mo brought Rao Rong out of the internet cafe. They didn't go anywhere. After boarding the car, Qin Mo tossed Rao Rong a uniform. "Follow me to a game." Rao Rong arched a brow. "You? Personally? Chin Mo replied faintly. MH. Rao Rong was surprised. Who would make you fight personally? Flies. Chin Mo glanced over. Clean them up before everyone comes back. Rao Rong. He was wrong. He had thought this person would be kinder after 3 months of absence. It seemed like his poisonous tongue couldn't be changed. The journey from the internet cafe to the building took less than half an hour. Rao Rong glanced up. This will be our future base. It seemed a little serious. Can we order instant noodles in the future? Yes. Chin Mo was used to these people's strange requests. Feng, he had moved into the building the day before. Many things had been arranged. Eating instant noodles wouldn't be difficult. Rao Rong knew that this competition would be different from the previous ones. They would receive comprehensive attention. But the facilities in the base surprised Rao Rong. There's even a gym? When the competition is intense, you will need to maintain your stamina. If you go overseas, you will need to adjust to the time difference. Chin Mo glanced over. In the future, your fitness and resistance will be monitored. Rao Rong chuckled lightly. Not bad. Chin Mo glanced at him. He didn't mention the other conditions. They weren't officially registered yet. The details would be announced once everything was stabilized, to prevent them from escaping. It's about time. Chin Mo stuffed a hand into his pocket, glancing at the watch on his wrist. Let's go to the training room. Was he going to start playing? Rao Rong replied, All right, I'll try out the new keyboard. The new base was huge. It was actually in the building. Both the training room and the gym were huge, and the planning was reasonable. After training, they could go to the gym next door. While working out, they could also see the situation in the training room. There were a total of 12 computers. They were placed there generously. There was a distance between each one, but it wasn't too far. The chairs had been specially adjusted by someone. It was so that the neck wouldn't be too stiff even if they sat for 24 hours. Rao Rong felt at the moment he sat down. It's comfortable. Chin Mo switched on a computer, removed his headphones, and placed them on his black hair. The sound produced by the mechanical keyboard was different from that of an ordinary keyboard. After Rao Rong was done, he turned towards Chin Mo. Chin Mo glanced at the game page. Give me an alternate account. He did have quite a few Smurfs on hand. Rao Rong casually mentioned one. After Chin Mo logged in, he glanced at the message on his phone. Then he opened a live streaming app. The more Rao Rong watched, the more curious he got. When did you start following the trend and watching live streams? I didn't. Chin Mo's gaze landed on the screen. Understand it now. Rao Rong was about to continue when he saw an ID appear on the live stream screen. Spade tea? Ever since the Supreme Alliance disbanded, Rao Rong didn't watch the video again. Most of the customers were boys. Boys look at technique. Only by entering the server's ranking would he attract their attention. For example, at that time, Spade Z, the one who would get the first kill the moment she made a move. Every day, everyone in Zone C would see that person's ID. It was growing at an unbelievable speed, be it the hidden boss or the first kill of an instance. Chapter 1706. In the game, it was normal to have the same ID. You and I are alike. I and you are alike, even the same as nothing. Some fans would even imitate their idols to express their love. When he used to play games, he had met someone called Rao Rong. These were all very common. Therefore, for the sake of a game ID, Chin Mo would never participate in this competition. Rao Rong glanced over. Just as he was about to continue looking, he caught another ID, Flawless Luoluo. The word flawless was deliberately weakened, as though it didn't exist. Of course, this was not the main point. The key was still the fighting style of those two. For example, Spade T had chosen Spade Z's best assassin back then. Flawless Luoluo chose Luoluo's most proficient sorcerer. The girl called Spade T? She even dyed her hair silver. Even if she didn't have a mole, she was going to light one for herself. He glanced up at the camera, his voice calm. Everyone should know how noisy I've been. Spade fans, stop bothering me. If you don't want to watch me play, scram. Rao Rong tilted his head towards Chin Mo. These things were nothing in his eyes. Chin Mo was probably the same. With only this level of strength, it was only natural that he wouldn't participate in a competition. What had happened in the past that made him make this decision? Before he could finish his thought, in the live stream room, a wave of comments popped up. God T is so handsome. We are Spade fans. We aren't here to mess around. Just like the one above, I like Spade Z and Almighty T. In my heart, Supreme Alliance and Spade Z are irreplaceable, but that doesn't affect my support for Almighty T. Go, God T. Rao Rong couldn't help smiling, his lips lifting slightly. Little Spade's fan? Seal yourself. Chin Mo threw 2 words over. Rao Rong chuckled lightly. I'm afraid there really are people who like Little Spade, but it's rather amusing to support him while saying he's irreplaceable. It's normal. Chin Mo logged in slowly. Have you ever taken these seriously? Rao Rong lowered his gaze. I'm still a little disappointed. I thought your heart was completely black at that time. Rao Rong knew exactly when it happened. Only Rao Rong knew how he had managed to climb back up. How many times had he felt that it was okay to live in the dark? In any case, this world had always been like this. What is human nature? When you shine, tufted maintenance. When you are defeated, trample at will. Those who say they like you don't know where your despair is. You can't express everything inside you. Because no one understood the saying, with dragon spring on the tongue, killing without spilling blood. Perhaps their love for him was the last straw that crushed his original intentions. The people who defeated us were never our enemies. It's that we've compromised and become like each other. Fortunately, he managed to walk out. Don't be trapped in your heart. Don't fear the future. Because Rao Rong understood. There are human nature in this world that you can't explain, even if it's just you sitting here. It made people remember why you would give your all to fight a match. Because they were fighting side by side. Because one day, they wanted to fight for the country. Because even though you've been drinking ice for 10 years, you aren't the only one whose blood hasn't cooled. There are also people sitting beside you who have walked out of the darkness and dared to move their mouse again. Perhaps they were the only ones who came out. But Rao Rong believed that there were many newbies who stayed up late to train, harboring the same feelings as them. They weren't faith, and they weren't exceptions. The world was big, and everyone had their own dreams of being a hero. Chapter 17:07. Kata. The enter key rang. Chin Mo entered the game. He followed the area announced on the live stream and entered the arena. It was a 5v5 match. When he clicked in, he was at flawless Luoluo and Spade T's side. But the next second, he clicked on a mouse and went to the opponent's position. This is a smurf, and my level isn't high. Can you match me? Rao Rong asked this question for a reason. In Hero, only players of the same level could participate in such a special competition. Unless it was a solo PK, they wouldn't care about such things. Once it was related to leveling up, they would pay attention to the balance of the players and their abilities. They couldn't let a newbie be matched with an expert right from the start. There wouldn't be any gaming experience. However, since these two people were said to be so powerful, they should have at least reached a certain level. How could they be matched with someone of a lower level? Unless they were of a similar level. As expected, Rao Rong took a closer look at their levels and wanted to laugh. No wonder their winning rate is so high. At this level, Little Spade can easily kill 5. Not necessarily, Chin Mo replied faintly. Rao Rong arched a brow. Not necessarily. If the teammate is an actor, he might not be able to kill 5. Chin Mo ignored the teammate, who kept asking him to change his hero. This hero could only be used against Spade T. He pressed the confirm button. Rao Rong fell silent, glancing up at the ceiling. Even the results are acted out. But at this level, there isn't a need to act. It can only be explained from the side. Chin Mo paused. Rao Rong replied, MH. Noob. It was a casual word. Rao Rong. All right, but why can't anyone tell that there are actors? Chin Mo thought about it, waiting to enter the game since there wasn't much to do. They are probably like you. They didn't expect that such a level of competition would require actors. Also, they really can't tell. After all, they are Gio's fans. How would they know such basic techniques? Rao Rong coughed, choking. Aren't you being sarcastic? Of course. Chi and Mo screwed the bottle cap back on. If they are her fans, how would they not know techniques? Rao Rong thought to himself, a man with a wife is scary. Chi and Mo was even scarier when he had a wife. The people in the live broadcast room did not expect what would happen next. Just like before, Spade T went to the opposite wilderness the moment the game started. Together with flawless Luo Luo, they came aggressively. The bullet screen was filled with so handsome, my Spade T is so handsome. Before entering the competition, Chin Mo turned off the live stream. Rao Rong found it interesting. He took his phone and did a search. When he entered, this was the scene he saw. Wasn't he learning from Little Spade? Even Little Spade's ability to turn wild was the same. However, this was understandable. Carnivorous junglers liked to take the initiative to attack. Many contestants also had this characteristic. It was also common for players to have a mana counter at the start of the game. It was probably because of Spade T's performance. As she walked, she typed, "Your wilderness is my home." Rao Rong wanted to laugh. Which capable assassin would show off his abilities like this? Yes, except for Little Spade. She would. That was because of her nature, dark to the core, unrestrained, flamboyant, and hateful. Chapter 1708. The livestream was flooded with comments. So handsome. Rao Rong was in a daze for a few seconds. Bragging was considered handsome. Zhao Sampang was definitely the most handsome, because he often bragged. Little Spade is narcissistic. Rao Rong asked Chin Mo. Chin Mo replied as he started to move the mouse. She often praises herself for being handsome without batting an eyelid. No wonder. Rao Rong touched his chin. She's indeed studious. Chin Mo laughed softly. He seemed to have thought of something. Anyway, his expression was slightly different. Rao Rong ate a mouthful of dog food silently. He saw that Chin Mo was already hiding in the bushes in the wilderness. Rao Rong wanted to say that this was really scheming, too scheming. No wonder Zhao Sampang called him Scheming Chin. He already knew what the opponent was going to do, which was why he was hiding in the bushes. It was obvious that the actor arranged here wasn't a high-level actor. He only wanted to send himself over. He didn't even know what his own assassin was doing. Up until now, Spade T and Flawless Luoluo had used this method to gain many points. After all, they were both professional players. It wasn't a problem for them to play such a low-end game. They arranged for one of them to be an actor on the other side because they wanted to play more elegantly. One had to know that people liked them now because they were handsome. They couldn't lose this charm. Now, let's return a blue buff to the opponent, Spade T said as she attacked. Flawless Luoluo was smiling too. It seemed like this game was extremely easy for them, but they hadn't expected something. A human figure would suddenly emerge from the bushes. A direct punishment. The blue buff they had used for so long was wasted. Spade T was about to explode. F*CK. That's F*King scheming. That's right, it's too scheming. A bunch of comments echoed. But there were also gamers who felt that it was normal. Wasn't it normal for the blue buff to be missed? Why did this person explode? She even cursed? Why did she feel? She couldn't feel it clearly. Everyone watching the live stream froze. That was because the figure in the bushes didn't retreat after taking back the blue buff. A backhand hit Spade T's body. Spade T seemed to be infuriated as she brought the sorcerer to retaliate. However, for some unknown reason, after the move was sent out, it actually missed. And where was he? Where is he? Unlike the audience, Spade T didn't have a full view. As a result, they couldn't see how that person had dodged two of their skills. With a flick of his spear, he jumped into an excellent position. Spade T asked, "Where is he?" He was lifted into the air by the silver-white spear. When the silver sparks fell, Spade T was stunned. Most importantly, Flawless Luoluo used her skill. However, it did not freeze the figure at all. That person seemed to know how she was going to fight. He was always one step ahead to avoid their skills. On the screen, the figure pulled back and forth at an extremely fast speed. It It was so dazzling that Spade T didn't even have a chance to react. Even the people watching the live broadcast were shocked by that kind of positioning and hand speed. No bullet screen popped up for a long time. It would only take 3 to 5 seconds. Chapter 1709. First Blood. First Kill. The first drop of blood. Silver sparks fell. The shadow of the long spear was imprinted on the ground. The entire live stream was silent. Did the T die? She died in less than 2 minutes after the start of the game. Spade T's hand paused for a moment. In the next second, she started speaking. Lualua, what's wrong with you? Shouldn't you have frozen him just now? This person usually called Flawless Lualuo, but always called her Lualuo. Flawless Lualuo was also stunned. She didn't expect the T to die. When she regained her senses, she stuck out her tongue and said, "Sorry, I used the wrong skill just now. I was just being naughty." This kind of explanation could be considered passable. The bullet screen kept saying, "Next time, you can't be naughty, Almighty T is dead, etc." But there were only a few such bullet screen comments. Then, another sound effect was heard. Double kill. Double kill. They must have heard wrongly. Double kill? It was actually a double kill. Everyone's eyes started to shake. But the figure on the screen seemed to naturally sweep past the bushes at the side. As he flipped over the wall, he had already defeated a wild monster in the river. And his HP, which was almost gone just now, actually rose back up. The people who originally came to watch the battle were here to see Spade T. When they saw this scene, they couldn't help but click on the person's corner of their vision. This meant that wherever he went, they would see it. Spade T and Flawless Luoluo's mentality was a little broken. Flawless Luoluo never thought that she would die as well. Spade T immediately said, "Luoluo, are you stuck there again?" Yes, I'm stuck again." After Flawless Luoluo said this sentence, Spade T said, "I think so too. But you can't say you're stuck after being killed once." When it was the second time, people watched the game from the other party's perspective. Once again, Spade T and Flawless Luoluo were killed by the silver-white figure. The livestream room was silent. What's the situation? Why did T die again? It doesn't look like a card. I don't think it looks like a card either. It's because he's too fast. Did anyone see how he came out? I've been watching for a long time, but I still don't know where he came from. Look at the assassin he's playing. He can teleport 3 times and go through walls. It's normal for him to suddenly appear. At this moment, Spade T's expression had changed. He was really flustered and exasperated. At this time, it was impossible to talk about teamwork. After all, this was a low-end game. If one did not have the ability to carry 4 people at once, they would have to think of a way to deal with such a person. He must be using a Smurf account. But even if he's a Smurf, his tank shouldn't be so bad. Smurf? Those who are here purely to see the game skills need to explain why they are still using alternate accounts. Isn't this a high-end game? He doesn't like high-end games. It's already tough enough to train. Now, we're just playing low-end games. As soon as these words were spoken, another sound effect appeared on the screen. 3 times. He had already been double-killed 3 times. How could Spade T bear it? She sent a signal to gather. He didn't even bother with the tower anymore. Instead, he led the other 4 players behind him and dashed towards the figure in the jungle. This time, the other party was definitely going to die. This was the thought that everyone had at this moment. 1 against 5, and his teammates had no intention of coming to support him. Chapter 1710. At this point in the live stream, someone started saying, "What's going on with the top lane over there? Why isn't he helping? Is it an illusion? I feel like he's an actor. Didn't someone say that this is a low-end game? There are actors in a low-end game?" As people became more and more confused, in the game, there was a round of encirclement. Just when everyone thought that the figure was going to die, he seemed to have predicted the opponent's position. He raised his long spear and didn't escape. Instead, he held the long spear and jumped to the back of those people. The silver-white long spear landed on the ground. His long sleeves fluttered. The dragon sword came out and lifted 2 people at the back. The ADC and support couldn't react at all. Spade T, who was charging at the front, didn't expect him to fight like this. She turned around to fight again. The ADC was already killed by the figure. Everyone could see that the silhouette on the screen was like moving clouds and flowing water, a critical hit and an instant kill. He took 1 out of the 5 people. After killing that person, he could quickly flee and then turn around to counterattack. The long spear was sharp and caught him off guard, even if he didn't go on stage. The people watching the live stream could understand what it felt like. Once he entered the scene, his head was taken. Moreover, there were 5 of them at the beginning. 5 of them couldn't stop him. Not only that, people could clearly see 1 kill, double kill, 3 kills. Just like that, in a situation that no one expected. That figure was like the wind that no one could stop. Prediction, positioning, and the awareness of a king. It wasn't that he hadn't been hit before, but every time he was hit, he could kill 1 person. Flawless Luo was among them. It was too fast. So fast that when Spade T saw that the figure had less than 1/3 of his HP left, she thought that her chance had come. First, she let the tank rush over and give him a critical hit. The reason why he raised his spear again was because he wanted to kill this person once and teach him a lesson. It didn't make sense. They used the same hero. The opponent was so much stronger than her, even if he had good skills. Now, he was almost at critical HP. As long as she caught up, she could take his head. Spade T's eyes were bloodshot. He didn't care that the defense towers on this side were almost destroyed, especially since the bottom lane had been pushed to the high ground. The only thing left in his eyes was to kill someone to avenge his humiliation. The people watching the live stream also understood what T was trying to do. For some reason, they were watching this game. He actually hoped that the silver-white figure would not be caught, but no one expected it. He knew that the other party was chasing after him. That person was still wielding his spear and casting a red buff. Hurry up and go. Killing 3 people is enough. That stayed just now, a 1v5, and he even killed 3 of them. That's really cool. But in the next second, everyone finally understood why he was using the red buff. He didn't do it for the redhead. It was for the sake of sucking blood. At this moment, Spade T flipped up. He entered the red buff area. Originally, he wanted to attack that person. However, the figure only moved his body sideways, and with that subtle movement, he was able to move his body. Spade T's big move didn't hit him at all. Instead, it hit the red buff. This was not the end. He thought that the person was going to leave. Who knew that he would take advantage of this moment to use a jungler skill and take the red buff directly in his hands. Chapter 17:11. F***CK. Is he asking Spade T to help him with the red buff? Asking the opponent to help him with the red buff. That's a trick. Have you guys seen his results? He hasn't played many rounds. I have. He hasn't played many rounds, and he's always the MVP with 0 deaths. I'm so envious. But he has always been a team control player. Why is he playing as an assassin this time? As a team control player, I feel that my previous team control games were all for nothing. Stop talking, look at what? This question only lasted for a moment. On the screen, the silver light fell. After the figure took the red buff, he drew close with his long spear and lifted the opponent into the air. Like a silver-white dragon, it turned around and struck back. It was obvious that Spade T was in a daze. Even her expression was blank. She didn't seem to expect herself to be killed. Because she wasn't convinced, Spade T threatened, "You cheater, I'm going to complain about you." How is that possible? He only has so little HP, and I haven't killed him for so long. How is that possible? Just as Spade T was shouting, another sound effect played in his ears. Pentakill. Pentakill? He actually got a pentakill. Even the tank was killed by him. The anger in Spade T's mouth seemed to freeze in an instant. The bottom lane had already reached the center of the city. The silver figure with the long spear didn't move at this moment. He just stood there, his wide sleeves fluttering. A line of words appeared on the screen. How did you guys become professional players? This sentence was thousands of times more lethal than saying that their names were the same. The people watching the live stream came to a realization. Before this, they didn't think much of it. But this time, Spade T was stunned by her opponent's performance. They liked this person because he gave them a handsome feeling. Now that they looked at him, the glow seemed to have faded. Some people felt that he looked like Z. Z was gone, and a new one appeared. Just enough for them to continue chasing. Now, they didn't know why. They didn't like him anymore. They didn't like him anymore. Think about it carefully. Back when Spade Z was playing, she could always enter the wilderness alone, clear the red and blue beasts before returning. Regardless of the situation, she could always go against the wind. When he was tired, he would rebuke others, and there were even times when he would speak ruthlessly. His eyes were filled with ambition. But she has never said bad words. But this tea, what they saw was this tea. All of them were taken. There were also some who came to see his face. However, he admired this character of his. What right do you have to question our God T's ability as a professional player? But none of that was important. More importantly, those who actually played and watched the competition knew that noobs were noobs. Did they need noobs to raise pigs in esports? After the match, Chin Mo removed his black headphones. Spade T wanted to throw the blame at Spade Z's fans. At this moment, Sister Turtle came out. Chapter 17:12. In an instant, those IDs that had been abandoned filled the entire screen. I'm in Jiang City, waiting for you to come back. I'm in City, waiting for you to come back. I'm in Border City, waiting for you to come back. It was just a short minute. Thousands of replies, one after another, increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Some people said that this was a true Spade fan. Those who were active, looking for the same image. They disliked Z's outer shell and handsomeness. Hence, just because there was a slight resemblance, they felt that the other party was the person in their heart. This was understandable. After all, making oneself happy was the most important, regardless of who the other party liked. But true Spade fans would only appear at such times. Some of them were students, some were office workers, and some were newbies who had just entered society. They stopped abruptly. Some emotions that had never been numbed surged out from their eyes. That group of people had used one competition after another to tell everyone what it meant to survive in adversity, to be strong against the strong. When you grow up, you will understand that nothing in this world is easy. But you have to believe that we humans have always been fireflies on the ground. We can make a comeback and pluck the stars. If you're really tired, then ask, can the dream in your heart be awakened again with this group of people when the news came out? Spade T, who had just been slapped in the face, didn't believe it at all. But this didn't affect the continued popularity. Spade T's plan was to stick to the other party. But not everyone would be like those who like to be in a shell. Spade T still didn't understand. True Spade fans wouldn't care about her at all. Hence, this time, there wasn't any effect. Those people were only waiting for one thing. Was it true? That group of people was coming back. Was it true? At this moment, in the city center of Jiang City, in a tall building, one after another, figures strolled in. Swoosh! The door of the base opened. Light shone in. Rao Ron was still sitting in front of the computer, his black hair covered with headphones, his hand by the side. Chinamo was wearing a black and red uniform, standing in the middle with his back facing the back. The two words China behind him with flames fluttering in the wind. It was as though one could hear the beating of the heart. After hearing the sound of the door, he turned his head, wherever his gaze landed. Bojio Xiaojing, Lin Feng, Yin Huluo, Feng Shang, Coco, Lin Chentao, In Wuyao, Xiao Sampang. These people were still the same as they were in his memory. They were youths in the prime of their youth. They were all wearing the same uniform. On the cuffs, there was a national emblem. They stood in a straight line in front of the door, their sleeves fluttering in the wind, a faint smile on their faces. They're all here. Chinamo opened his mouth, his voice calm, as though he was exchanging pleasantries with an old friend. Let's begin. It was just a short sentence, but it seemed to be able to shake something. The aura he exuded made the assistant standing behind him freeze on the spot. However, it was not that there was no reaction. After all, the higher-ups had asked him to take care of these esports players. But that scene was too cool. He was so handsome that the assistant couldn't help but raise his hand. With a click, the photo was formed. Chin Mo stood at the front. Everyone behind him had a gleam in their eyes. The photo was posted to the official account. There was only one sentence accompanying the picture. Chapter 17:13. In many people's hearts, they were really a group of gods. They gathered the best esports players in China and formed a Chinese team. Just looking at the photo and name list would make people want to know about the month before the start of the World League. How would they live? Everyone must be handsome. Zhao Sampang did think he was handsome. But, scheming Qin, are you serious? You want us to wake up at 8:30? Zhao Sampang looked at the timetable in front of him, feeling as though he had entered a thief's nest. Qin Mo's voice was calm. For the sake of everyone's health, we will wake up at this time in the future. You must be joking. Zhao Sampang turned toward the person beside him. Ask them, how many of them can wake up? Bo Jiu raised her hand lazily, smiling devilishly. I can't wake up. Zhao Sampang shouted. Look. Qin Mo glanced over. Bo Jiu had a serious expression. Think about it. If someone can guide me every day, I can still wake up. After all, it's never dreams that wake me up, it's beauty. Zhao Sanpang's mouth twitched. He shouldn't have relied on Little Spade to rebel. How could she say something like that? Esports doesn't wake up early. In Weiyao indicated that this matter had to be discussed. Coco let out a yawn to express his thoughts. Qin Mo glanced up. At the latest 9 a.m., I want to see you in the living room. You have already washed up and are having breakfast. I've been on a diet recently and won't eat breakfast. I should be able to wake up later. Zhao Sampang was trying his best to sleep a little longer. Qin Mo sat there, nonchalant. I heard you don't like bitter gourd. Is that right, almighty fatty? No one likes bitter gourd, right? Zhao Sampang blinked. Why? Scheming Qin, are you trying to change our meals? At this moment, Lin Feng and Yun, who were exceptionally quiet, and Mach, they didn't speak. They quietly watched as the world's most handsome fatty jumped into the pit. Actually, Lin Feng had wanted to speak at the start. He wanted to talk about fitness. Was it true that he had to do 40 push-ups every night? Just as he was about to speak, Yun, who grabbed his wrist and arched a brow. He wanted him to observe first. Think about it before bringing up your ideas to the captain. Zhao Sampang said fearlessly. He even admitted that he didn't like bitter gourds. Did Zhao Sampang not know? Don't expose your weakness in front of the captain, because he would definitely make good use of the captain. And then, before Lin Feng could even finish his thought, it's fine if you don't want to wake up early. From tomorrow onwards, I will get Bei to prepare 3 cups of bitter gourd juice for everyone. Those who haven't woken up by 9 a.m. can just drink it. 3 cups of bitter melon juice? Zhao Sanpang's expression changed. This must be a joke. 10 days of closed-door training, starting at 9:30 a.m., training at 12 o'clock p.m. During the afternoon break, it's fine if you don't want to run. You have to drink 3 glasses of bitter gourd juice and do push-ups at night. Qin Mo glanced at the people opposite him. Since we are representing China, we have to look good. Don't you think so? They said it was a den of thieves. Zhao Sampang and Lin Feng looked at each other. Chapter 17:14. Qin Mo sat there calmly. His noble aura didn't diminish in the slightest. It was as though he had seen through them. He said casually, I have already submitted your information to the committee. If you choose to leave now, you will be considered as betraying your country. Betraying your country? Zhao Sampang glared at him. Scheming Qin, why didn't I know that you would use morals to pressure people? Qin Mo was calm. Do you know now? Zhao Sampang shook his head. Shameless, too shameless. Qin Mo looked at him and suddenly smiled. It was a little warm. It seems like almighty fatty can't wait to taste the bitter melon juice. Zhao Sanpeng's back stiffened. He didn't say another word. After a long time, a higher-up came to visit the members of the Chinese team and asked, "You guys used to be the first and second in command of the team. What method did Qin Mo use to allow you guys to get along peacefully?" Zhao Sanpeng only replied with one word: shameless. They didn't even have a way to leave the team. Pirate ship, the biggest pirate ship. The esports players weren't used to waking up early. As for Zhao Sanpeng, he had to use all his strength to get up. Bojio was much smarter. She could catch up on her sleep by sitting in front of the computer. She sat there with her black headphones on, her uniform pulled to the top. Her entire face was covered, only revealing a pair of starry eyes. Her silver hair fell down. From afar, she looked very handsome, but when she got closer, she could see the youngster's head nodding. The side of the face was porcelain white, and it looked a little cool, like a cat sleeping lightly. Qin Mo walked over, emptied one hand, and tapped the man's forehead with his finger. Bojio paused. She opened her eyes. There was still a hint of sleepiness in her eyes. It was obvious she wasn't fully awake. Subconsciously, she thought that she was still in a castle overseas. She reached out, wanting to hug his waist and carry out her daily morning teasing. Qin Mo sensed her thoughts, and a smile appeared on his lips. In order to prevent a certain someone from acting like a hooligan and forgetting where they were, Qin Mo took a seat. He freed one hand and placed it on her side before lowering his body. "Mrs. Qin, wake up. Look at where you are. Do you want to go outside and do frog jumps with Almighty Fatty, or do you want a glass of bitter melon juice?" Frog jump, bitter melon juice. These 6 words seemed to have a magical nature. Bojio had assumed that as someone who had graduated from high school, it would be impossible for her to come into contact with a sport like frog jumps. It was really too embarrassing to turn his hands behind his back and squat there and jump around like a frog. He didn't expect that a married person like her would have to experience this kind of life all over again. Most importantly, the frog was not jumping inside. Instead, it was to be at the plaza outside the building. It was a business district after all. A row of people were doing frog jumps, still wearing their uniforms. It was really eye-catching. In the beginning, even if it was embarrassing, it was only in front of passers-by. After that, some fans came to catch them. Every day, they would bet on who would wake up late to do frog jumps. Even people as thick-skinned as Zhao Sanpeng and Bojio wanted to maintain their image. The photo of Bojio with a lollipop in her mouth and randomly posting frog jumps was still circulating on the internet. Chapter 17:15. However, it wasn't easy to beat a loafer. The next day, Bojio was still in the group being punished. Other than her, there was Lin Feng and Zhao Sanpeng. Frog jumps. What did Zhao Sanpeng look like when he jumped? Besides, Shameless Qin didn't allow them to wear masks. Zhao Sanpeng couldn't catch his breath. He turned to Bojio. "Little Spade, I'm not a troublemaker. You're scheming Qin's wife, but he's still punishing you. If I were you, I would divorce him." Bojio bit the lollipop. She felt a little depressed. She placed her hands behind her head and jumped again and again. Her silver hair moved along with her. He was so handsome that the girls around him kept raising their phones. Their faces were still red, and their hearts couldn't take it anymore. Their big Spade was so handsome that they wanted to take him home and raise him. However, the person supervising the punishment was Almighty Qin. He held a cup of green liquid in his hand. It was said to be the bitter gourd juice that made all the members obey him the moment they heard his name. He was like a devil. It was too difficult to snatch someone from his hands. Bojio was the first to complete the frog jumps. Zhao Sanpeng watched from the back. "Little Spade, how are you so fast?" "I have experience." Bojio reached out and wiped her sweat. She smiled devilishly. "I was often punished in high school. These 20 frog jumps are nothing. I can do one round around the entire field." Zhao Sanpeng smirked. "Is that something to be proud of?" Almighty Fatty. After Bojio was done with her punishment, she found a wooden stick. "I don't like it when anyone tries to sow discord between me and brother Zhao Sanpeng cursed. How am I supposed to jump if you move the wooden stick away? This is a military marriage. If you continue to spoil it, I'll get someone to arrest you, Bo Gio said nonchalantly. She didn't move the wooden stick in front of him. Almighty Fatty is so handsome. A wooden stick is nothing. Zhao Sampang couldn't jump over. He couldn't help but shout, "Scheming Qin, come over and control your family." Qin Mo walked over, his gaze landing on her. Bo Gio said, "He wants us to divorce." Qin Mo retracted his gaze, his voice calm. "Continue." Zhao Sampang was speechless. It was one thing to do frog jumps, but he had to do it like this. In the past, Bo Gio had a habit of showing off her love. Otherwise, as a smart car, Blackie wouldn't be unable to tolerate its master. Zhao Sampang really didn't understand her in this aspect. Everyone saw that handsome young man with a black headband on his silver hair, his fair forehead glistening with beads of sweat. He held a wooden stick and blocked Fat God again and again. He didn't forget to say, "Every time he punishes me, he will give me a reward, such as candy or a kiss. I think it's good to do a few frog jumps, but the bitter gourd tastes terrible. But if you can't finish, I can prepare a few more cups for you later." Zhao Sampang was speechless. Although he had never been in a relationship before, he had seen others who would deliberately make a mistake just for a kiss from their boyfriend and get punished. He shouldn't have said that just now. Little Spade looked very obedient in front of Chinamo, but in fact, she was full of evil. Bojo didn't care about his thoughts. She threw the wooden stick down and went to her man to receive her reward. Chapter 17:16. Qin Mo watched a certain someone who was smiling. After entering the base, he found a corner and pressed her against the wall, kissing her again and again. Boju wrapped her arms around his waist as her breaths rose and fell. The taste was slightly sweet when it entered the tongue. It was weird. It wasn't the first time they kissed. However, that kind of numbness never weakened. Boju smiled. She liked the look in his eyes when his breathing was unstable. That was something that could only be felt for her. It was a pity that the medicine she got from the Black brothers didn't work on him at all. Otherwise, she would have been able to appreciate more beauty. Bojo moved closer as she thought about it. It was this action that made Qin Mo's kiss deepen. It was as though he could take away all his thoughts and make his mind go blank. Only when she lost all her energy and could only rest on his body to recover did he release her. He pressed against her and said something softly in the corner. After tidying her uniform, he said, "I admire Mrs. Qin's attitude in protecting our marriage. Keep it up." Bojio's lips were still numb. She didn't pay attention to what Qin Mo said. This was the problem of kissing for too long. Every touch brought with a numbness. The two of them wouldn't be intimate in public, but there would be occasional kisses. This didn't affect their performance. On the contrary, everyone in the team used the limited time to improve themselves. Whether it was their physique, ability to withstand pressure, technical layout, or their hand speed. As a control sorcerer, Luo used her abilities to prove that she hadn't slowed down. Everyone had problems to overcome. Uncle Ian was thinking about how to overcome his current self. He had reached a bottleneck before. Qin Mo brought over the past information and the tactical analysis of the various teams in the world. At that time, they would be considered to have entered a battle state. They understood one point clearly. Next, they were going to bring esports out of the country. Every country had sent their strongest team to face the challenge. What they could do was to train well and be more prepared. As for other things, they were a team that grew stronger the stronger they were. On the battlefield, they wouldn't just be at their current standard. Except for China. Some of the Japanese team members would also represent their countries. How could you see Shin and Hoshino not be among them? Only during this period of time. No one knew what was going on. There seemed to be a barrier between the captain and the vice captain. The captain rarely spoke. Apart from playing games, he didn't say a single word. The vice captain was the same as before, sleeping more than awake. But the captain's condition was still not right. Even though the captain had a very beautiful face, The sharpness that seeped out from her bones made many people want to persuade her, but they didn't know how. Moreover, the Japanese didn't want their captain to lead the team. If it wasn't for the vice-captain defeating them all by himself, they would definitely be unconvinced. But even so, the captain still looked cold. It seemed like he had been in this state ever since Spade Z's wedding. That was strange. Captain should be happy that Spade Z was getting married. That way, no one would be fighting with Captain for the vice-captain position. Why did Captain seem to be distancing himself from him? Chapter 1717. In Japan, gangsters were allowed to have legal activities. Yu Cixin was the 19th generation leader. His usual hobbies, other than gaming, were racing and drinking. Moreover, almost everyone here knew about it. It was best not to offend Yu Cixin. Because he was a snake, he could spit out a red tongue. Don't think that just because he had a pretty face, he was a pretty boy. Many people didn't even know how they died because of this. Now, there was someone who didn't know his place and wanted to take him away in a nightclub. Yu Cixin drank a little too much today. He wore local clothes, and with his long hair, it was hard to tell if he was a man or a woman. But after meeting his eyes, one should know that he didn't have any femininity. But even so, there were those who couldn't move when they saw beauty. Do you want to leave with me? I still have a lot of alcohol with me. The person who said this was the beauty who was drunk and wanted to take the chance to take her away. Unexpectedly, before he could place his hand on that person's shoulder, there was a creaking sound. His wrist was forcefully broken by that person. When the pain came, there was only a scream left. Yu Cixin laughed coldly and pushed him away. He looked down at him and spat out one word. Scram. That person's expression changed in fear. Yu Cixin reached out and pushed his black hair to the back of his head. He glanced to the side. The bartender immediately brought a new bottle of alcohol over. He was afraid that something would happen to the master here. Why didn't his brothers come over? They must have received orders to stand around. What about young Master Hoshino? Why didn't he come? As long as young Master Hoshino came, then there would be true peace. If not, who knew how many people would have their hands broken tonight? Tell me what's wrong with me? Yu Cixin suddenly spoke. He wasn't like an ordinary person who couldn't speak clearly after getting drunk. His face didn't look sloppy at all. It was still handsome and sharp. But as a follower, what's wrong with the master? This was a question that was asking for death. Not answering, Yu Cixin scoffed. After he stood up, he glanced at one of the beauties who was still dancing and raised his glass. What kind of place was this? A place to have fun. After the beauty saw this, she walked over. Yu Cixin lifted the other party's chin and seemed to smile. He could really win over both men and women. What do you think is wrong with me? He was too handsome. He was so handsome that it was hard to breathe. How could there be such a person? His hair was clearly longer than his own, but it was like a demon that bewitched all living beings. The beauty moved closer, wanting to kiss his lips. But Yu Cixin pushed him away. Then, he shook his finger. This won't do. Why? The beauty didn't think that a person like him would like a man. The uncle who came up to her just now was blind. Just by looking at this person's wolf-like eyes, it was clear that he would not bow down to anyone. He was the one who was fatally attractive to girls, especially now when he began to tug at his collar. Very hot? I can help you cool down. You must be thirsty after drinking so much. My car is just outside. Yu Cixin listened to her words and suddenly smiled, but before he could speak, Yu Cixin suddenly smiled. Someone was walking toward them. Chapter 1718. It was Hoshino. He was wearing a white shirt and a sweater from late autumn. He was carrying a cat in his arms. From afar, he looked like a character that walked out of manga. It was hard to ignore him. The bartender instantly revealed an expression as though he was saved. Yu Cixin's eyes paused for a moment. His thin lips were a little nonchalant. I haven't drunk enough. I won't go back for now. Hoshino threw the cat into his arms. He was as refined as ever. I didn't ask you to go back. You raised your own cat. Aren't you going to feed it? It won't starve to death. Yu Cixin picked up the cat with one hand. He saw that the woman's gaze was focused on Hoshino's face. She suddenly smiled. Why? You don't want to bring me away now. You want to bring him to your car? The woman blushed as her thoughts were seen through. Yusishin couldn't be bothered to look at her anymore. He swept a glance in the direction of the bodyguard. Very quickly, someone came over to clear the place. They wouldn't do anything to her. That woman didn't need to come to this place anymore. Even if the music was noisy, it didn't seem to affect their temperament. Yusishin held the cat and looked at his eyes. Then he scoffed. Your master doesn't have time to care about you now. If you don't want to starve to death, go find food yourself. He was in a bad mood and didn't even want to care about the cat. Yet he reeked of alcohol. Young Master Hoshino. The bartender wanted to say something, but stopped. Hoshino glanced down. Go get a room. Yes. The bartender thought that his boss was indeed suitable to sleep in this state. If not, if there were any more people who weren't afraid of death that came to his door, it would be terrible. Yusishin smiled. He didn't have any objections, but he wouldn't cooperate. He sat there and picked a bottle of strong alcohol. He poured into a goblet with one hand. Hoshino finished the glass of wine right after he poured it out. Yusishin narrowed his eyes and poured another glass. Let's go. Hoshino's voice was very calm. I'm tired from looking for you. I'll be even more tired after a few more glasses. Yusishin glanced up and suddenly laughed. No wonder that woman wanted to take you away. It's a pity that she doesn't understand that our Mr. Hoshino doesn't care about anyone other than Z. Hoshino looked at him. His face smelled of wine, and the corners of his eyes were red, but he was very cold. You're here because of this? Hoshino furrowed his brows, but soon relaxed. His tone was calm as he stated a fact. Other than Z, isn't there also you? Yusishin was about to spit out his snake tongue when he suddenly stopped. He did not sober up, but it did not affect his thoughts. He knew very well that Hoshino treated him like family. This was what Yusishin couldn't understand. He was the first person to know him. If it wasn't for the fact that something had happened, he wouldn't have rushed to Hoshino's side immediately. How could Z have a chance? Even until now, Hoshino was still keeping his promise with the Bo family. He was doing it willingly. Even though Z said that she wanted to remove it, he would not give up either. This was what made Yusishin feel the most helpless. But it was different now. With Chin and Mo by her side, Z had long cut off Hoshino's thoughts. Since that was the case, why should he be anxious? Yusishin lowered his lids and laughed. I thought you forgot what you said. No, Hoshino's temperament didn't change. Chapter 1719. I never thought of going against the promise. Hoshino's emotions didn't change. Even his voice was calm. Since you finished drinking, go to sleep. Yusishin smiled lazily, fatally handsome. My bed partner was seduced by you. How can I sleep? Don't you know? I'll feel cold if no one sleeps with me. I'll sleep with you. Hoshino bent down, picked up the cat on the ground, and placed it back in his hands. His eyes were like splashing ink. Yusishin paused, turned his head, and smiled. That's fine too. Even though he knew that the sleeping partner he was talking about was simply accompanying him. Yusishin didn't want to miss such contact. They hadn't slept in the same room for a long time. It wasn't considered in the base there were so many people. When they were young, the two of them often slept in the same bed. Later on, this person became distant from him. Yusishin's gaze was calm, trying not to think about it. The room was in the deepest part of the bar. A high-class, large-scale bar like this. There would be VIP rooms for the night, but there were only 4 or 5 rooms. Usually, they were reserved for the most distinguished guests and gang members. The leader and young Master Hoshino were both there, so there were originally 2 rooms. After the bartender heard the conversation, he decisively asked someone to change to another room. After Yusishin was drunk, the fatal feeling on his body became more prominent. But he really drank a little too much. After opening the door, he walked into the bathroom. In a short while, the sound of vomiting came from inside. It was obvious that the drunk person wasn't feeling well. What was it this time? Was it because of those relatives who wanted to fight for power? It seemed like it was time for Su Qing to find out who Black Flame was. Hoshino stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, pressing the intercom. Get someone to cook some hangover soup and porridge. Send it over. Yes, young Master Hoshino. This was the most peaceful day in recent times. Every time this happened, there would be people who wanted to spend the night with the boss. How many pale faces would leave? They couldn't remember. Fortunately, young Master Hoshino was here today. Boss seems to agree with young Master Hoshino. Both of their auras are so strong. Of course, look at who they are. Boss listens to young Master Hoshino because they have known each other since young. You've known each other since childhood? Yes, I also heard from the family. When they were young, Boss and young Master Hoshino were really inseparable. The two of them were different from other children. They would always lie under a tree and read books together. They would even fence and shoot together. At that time, were the two of them like this? It can be said that the leader has never changed, but young Master Hoshino disappeared for a period of time because something happened to his family. But when he came back, he didn't seem to be as close to the leader as before. Some people say that it's because they've grown up. That's right. Hoshino wouldn't be able to hear these discussions. All he heard was that the bathroom had been silent for a long time. He glanced sideways and glanced at the hangover soup and porridge that had been sent in. He waited for another 3 minutes, but there was still no sound. Only then did he stroll in. After opening the door, steam rose up from the hot water. Chapter 17:20. He was like a vampire aristocrat who was in deep sleep. Even that face seemed to be able to bring out the suffocating beauty of a rose. However, Yusishi knew that his current appearance wasn't attractive to that person at all. The moment this thought appeared, the footsteps stopped beside his ear. Hoshino raised his hand and pulled out a towel. He looked down at the person in the bathtub, looking a little like the most competent deacon in a manga. He placed the towel over Yusishin's head, his gaze faint. "What are you doing?" Yusishin opened his eyes, his gaze extremely sharp. "You didn't terminate the contract with Z. Hoshino, you know what requirements I have for the people around me." Hoshino's voice wasn't loud or soft. "What requirements? You can only look at me." Yusishin stretched out his hand and pulled his collar, the smell of alcohol lingering. Hoshino glanced down at his hand. His aura didn't change. "Didn't I say earlier that I will abide by the words I said when I enter the main family? Since I became a death attendant, I will only look at you in the future. The main family's contract is really useful." Yusishin's smile deepened, but there wasn't any warmth in his eyes. Hoshino checked the water temperature. "It's getting cold. Wipe it clean and come out." With that, he stood up. He could hear the splashing sound behind him. Yusishin did walk out of the bathtub with a towel around him, but the first thing he did was to hug Hoshino's waist from behind. Then a low voice sounded. "You promised to sleep with me. Don't go back on your words." Hoshino glanced down and felt the moisture behind him. He didn't take this action to heart. He just glanced over and said faintly, "Let go." Yusishin's extremely beautiful eyes narrowed at this moment. Then he said slowly, "I won't let go." Hoshino's aura seemed to always be like this. He wouldn't allow anyone to continue messing around. Even Yusishin was the same. He removed the hand on his waist and walked out of the bathroom. Yusishin's gaze, which was about to follow the back view, sank. That person walked in again, a bathrobe hanging on his arm. "Lower your head." Yusishin still reeked of alcohol. He did as he was told. Hoshino reached out and helped him put on the bathrobe. Looking at his unhappy face, he thought about it and said slowly, "I'll stay with you like I did when we were kids. Isn't that enough?" Yusishin paused, but didn't raise his head. "Like when we were young." Hoshino grunted in acknowledgement. His gentleness didn't change. He handed him a towel before walking back to the bed. Yusishin wanted to say, "You know I want more than this." But he didn't say this out loud. In any case, they were going to sleep together later. Since there was a breakthrough, then there was no need to think too much. At most, he would use force. Thinking about this, Yusishin's lips curved upwards. That kind of smile, indeed, looked like a beautiful snake spitting out its red tongue. However, it was clear that his seductive, androgynous beauty, under his deliberate efforts, did not arouse that person's interest. Yu Cixin smiled. When he came out, he saw that the person was already lying on the bed. Yu Cixin simply walked over. First, he pressed down on Hoshino's wrist. Then he bent down slightly. Under the bathrobe, porcelain white could be faintly seen. It was cold to the touch. Many people felt that he was a cold-blooded animal. It was probably because Yu Cixin's body temperature was slightly low. He lowered his body, and his gaze met Hoshino's. Indeed, he had to use force. Chapter 17:21. Before Yu Cixin could do anything, he was pressed back by Hoshino's backhand. Yu Cixin narrowed his eyes and said slowly, "Aren't you going to abide by the agreement and be my shadow? Aren't you going to let me touch you? You're so drunk that you don't even want her hand?" Hoshino leaned against Yu Cixin's ear when he said this. Yu Cixin glanced down. Indeed, because of the alcohol, his strength was weaker than usual. "Why? If I really make a move, will you really break my wrist?" "No." Hoshino looked at the handsome face that was inches away from him. His gaze was still the same as usual. This word made Yu Cixin bury his face into the pillow. "Then let go. It seems like you really underestimated your influence on me. If you speak into my ear like this, I'm going to have a reaction." Heh. That had made Hoshino notice something. He wasn't joking. He was serious. His brows unconsciously furrowed, and he loosened his grip as he stood up. Yu Cixin, who was released, leaned there lazily. There was a sharp beauty in the corner of his eyes. "Why? Are you frightened?" Hoshino glanced at him. "When did it start? Don't you know that I don't discriminate between men and women?" As Yu Cixin spoke, he tilted his head and lit a cigarette in his hand. When he smoked, he was very handsome and had a kind of mischievousness. Hoshino retracted his gaze and took a step forward. Yu Cixin spoke again. "You want to break off your relationship with me? Or do you feel disgusted?" Hoshino turned back and looked at the person who laughed wantonly. He remembered that this fellow was like this when he was young. He would laugh no matter what he encountered, including when his mother tried to attract his father's attention. She often made him go to the main family with a swollen face. When he was young, he looked like a doll. He could make use of his surroundings, and no one could tell that he had cried before. It was said that children who were used as tools by their biological mothers didn't like to talk. But Yu Cixin was different. The smile on his lips would never disappear. Who bullied him? He would get revenge. He just needed to wait. Because of this, that was why he was here. Moreover, Yu Cixin didn't really like him when he was young. Hoshino could feel that although the man was smiling at him, there was no warmth in his eyes. But even so, the two of them were not the kind of people who would tear off their disguises. The innocence of a child seemed very far away from them. To some extent, no matter how unwilling they were at the time, they were still people who accompanied each other. In the first month, they will be like many sensible children. He would call him when he saw him. "Hoshino, let's go practice fencing. It must be very interesting." Later on, the two of them confirmed that neither of them was pure. He didn't even greet him when he saw him, and he was even more so on the fourth month. They were still together, but they had a childish fight, because he saw his mother hitting him. Yu Cixin threatened him. "If you tell anyone about this, none of us will have a good time." At that time, when he said this, the corners of his mouth were still curled up just like now, but his hands were trembling, and his eyes seemed to be swirling. Chapter 17:22. Forget it. Anyway, he already had his cat. It wasn't difficult to have one more. Hoshino reached out and took the cigarette from Yu Cixin's hand. He put it out in the ashtray. "Let's talk." Yu Cixin paused. His gaze deepened. "I don't want to talk. Anyway, you're rejecting me." When Hoshino heard this, his gaze paused. His aura didn't change. "Who said that I'll definitely reject you?" This sentence caught Yu Cixin off guard. He froze on the spot. Even his eyes were a little round. The more he looked at him, the more he looked like his cat. Hoshino reached out and pinched his chin. His gaze was still calm. Many women outside say that they'll feel happy when they kiss you. They probably haven't seen your expression before. After he mentioned it, Yu Cixin seemed to have realized something. He smirked evilly. Indeed, it will be very happy. Do you want to try? No need, I can't accept it now. Hoshino's words were true. He liked women. But in terms of feelings, UC Sheen was more important. It was probably related to the environment he grew up in. Hoshino had always been indifferent towards women. Z was an exception. This person was an exception too. Hoshino could clearly see that person's eyes dimmed after he finished his sentence. He didn't know why. He just didn't want to see this person grow up to be like this. Lonely, like a person without a goal. He paused and added another sentence. When I can accept it, I'll try it with you. Hoshino, this sentence of yours sounds like what you said to Beitai. UC Sheen smiled slowly. There was a hint of viciousness in his voice. I won't wait for you to accept it. I'll take action when I have the chance. If not, I won't like you anymore. Why must I like you? Yes, why must he like this person? How many people were waiting to climb into his bed? Women, man. She was handsome and beautiful. They were all queuing up to be taken by him. Yet he took a liking to someone he would never be able to get. Hoshino looked up. His aura was pure. You could take action. The unexpected answer made UC Sheen glance over. You won't give me a chance to attack. Hoshino looked at the back of his slightly red ears and knew that he had realized what he had said. He lowered his voice and said, If that's the case, do you think I would be here? UC Sheen laughed again and pulled him over. Then you have to explain it properly. Why can't you accept it now? Are you worried that my skills aren't good? Don't worry, I will make it very comfortable for you. After all, you have no experience. Hoshino looked at him, his eyes deep. Who gave you the illusion that I'm the one down there? UC Sheen chuckled. Are you like those people? Do you think that because I have such a face, Before he could finish, Hoshino's voice rang out again. Play-Doh, if you really want. Play-Doh? UC Sheen narrowed his eyes, his vibe as venomous as a snake's. I reacted when you talked to me like that just now. You want me to be Play-Doh? Hoshino was emotionless. You reacted just by talking to me like that? If not, how do you think I noticed? UC Sheen suddenly paused when he said this. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.